Hello everyone, a very good afternoon. So guys, today we are going to analyze the paper 3 of GS that was held yesterday. So I am going to analyze the economic section of it. Several questions came from the economic section, and today we are going to see that what was required, what all was needed for you to write in these questions, and we are going to give you the insight of it. Okay, so let's get started. So see, first question was, which was in your paper, question number 1. The question was that distinguish between the Human Development Index, that is HDI, and the Inequality Adjusted Human Development Index, that is IHDI, with a special reference to India. Why is the IHDI considered a better indicator of inclusive growth? So see guys, the thing is that Human Development Index and IHDI, this topic is actually a very predictable topic, and it is taught nearly everywhere, where you have to see that Human Development Index was actually the old measure. When I say old measure, it means that countries used to analyze the growth in their country with the help of HDI. And when I'm talking of growth, I'm talking of the growth of the people living in the country. What actually HDI tells you is that whether the basic facilities of education, health, life expectancy, all these factors, whether these factors are being provided to the citizens or not, and if these factors are being provided, then to what extent these are provided. And now the new parameter, which is IHDI, it talks of the inequality as well. So IHDI is HDI only, but it incorporates the factor of inequality. When I say inequality, so see, what happens is, you consider any country. Let's talk of a country. So in a country, there are few which have got many facilities, right? And they can avail these facilities. There are also many who do not have access to such facilities. But if you will find out SDI, then what will happen, that you are going to determine overall, you are going to determine the overall growth thing, right? And in this way you are compromising, you will not get the exact data, because you see, people who have got all the facilities, their SDI will be high, and people who have got very few facilities, or you can say none of the facilities, their data would be combined with those who have got all the facilities, and exact picture would not be given. In IHDI, what happens is that this factor of inequality is also counted, and government gets the exact view that actually how many people are suffering and how much has to be done for them. So that's why IHDI is a improved version of SDI. Okay, so see, in this question, first of all, you had to write the introduction, and see, the question was of 10 marks, and whenever the question is of 10 marks, you have to write 150 words here. Hence your introduction should not exceed more than 10 to 15 words. Okay, so in introduction you could have written that the Human Development Index, that is HDI, introduced by UNDP, United Nations Development Program, measures development through health, education and income. The inequality adjusted HDI refines it by accounting for inequality. As I told you, in SDI, the factor of inequality was also added across these dimensions, making it more reflective of actual human well-being. Okay, then they are asking you that you have to compare the SDI and IHDI. So here a comparison is done, SDI and IHDI. So if I talk about SDI, it's the composite index of life expectancy, education and per capita income. Okay, whereas your IHDI, it is adjusted SDI that discounts achievement for inequality in distribution of health, education and income. So what IHDI does is, IHDI incorporates the inequality factor, that okay, these people have got these basic parameters, they have got these basic facilities of health, education and all, but there are many who have not got it. Okay, so due to these people who have not achieved these basic facilities, so there will be deduction in the SDI value. That's what happens in IHDI. Second is focus. Focus is on potential human development, whereas in case of ISDI, it is actual human development that is being considered after considering the inequality. The limitation of SDI is that it ignores internal disparities. As I told you, it takes the average, and when you are taking the average, then deserving or people who have already got these facilities, they and people who have not got no access to these facilities, both will be taken, right? So thereby it is sort of injustice to those people who do not have facilities, right? Ignores internal disparities. Two countries with same SDI may differ widely in equity. See, SDI is going to give you a vague idea. Now it's quite possible that SDI of a developing country and that of a developed country can be equal. So just by looking at SDI, you might get an idea that this country A, let's say country A is developed and country B is underdeveloped or is a developing country, but their SDI is equal. Why? Because in country B, there may be few people whose SDI is very high. And since you will take average, it may become equal to that of a developed country. So you might think that, okay, both of these countries are at same level as far as human development is concerned. But that's not the exact picture. Because in underdeveloped country, only few have got these privileges. Others are lagging. But still, you might get a wrong picture. So when we talk about ISDI, it highlights the loss in development. How much development is lost? How it is lost? Because there are few people who are not the part of the development process. That's why due to these people who are not having access, due to these people, the growth or the development is lost due to inequality. If we take example of India, so India's SDI in 2023 was 0.644 and our rank was 134 out of 193 countries of which SDI was measured. ISDI is 0.475. See, value of SDI is higher, but value of ISDI is lower. Why? Because we have subtracted that inequality factor, showing a 26.2% loss due to inequality. So this has been subtracted from the figure and we get the exact figure of 0.475. That's what ISDI does for you. Now, why SDI is a better measure of inclusive growth? Because it captures inequality impact, reflects how benefits of growth and are shared across groups, unlike SDI, which masks disparities. As I already told you, ISDI points out that how and where inequality is, whereas SDI, it gives you the average measure, so it does not point out towards the same. Second is highlights vulnerable groups. In India, wide gap exists between rural, urban, gender, caste and regional lines. ISDI exposes these inequalities. So the inequality can be in the form of gender, male-female thing, right? Male are getting more, female are underprivileged. It can be in the form of the area where people are living. Urban people, they have more access to the facilities, whereas people living in rural areas, they do not have that much access. Rich, poor, again, the divide is there. Again, the inequality is there. So all these disparities, all these inequalities are being highlighted and covered in ISDI. Okay. Then if we talk about policy relevance, so ISDI, since it points out or gives the more correct data to the government or to the policy makers, therefore policy makers have got better idea that how they have to frame the policy so that those who do not have these facilities can be benefited the most. Okay, so helps policymakers to identify areas where inequality undermines human development. If we talk about India, so despite rising SDI, high inequality leads to significant development loss. In case of India, we see that SDI is rising. If you just look at the figure of SDI, you might say that, yeah, India is doing well. But the real picture is a bit different because much of our development which is being countered or which is being incorporated in SDI, it is being lost due to inequality. Few are getting the privileges, others are not. Okay. Then next is promotes inclusive strategies, encourages focus on social protection, education for girls, health infrastructure, and poverty reduction. So by looking at the figures of ISDI, we can do, or government can provide these basic facilities to the people. At least social security can be provided, education can be provided, because it is the basic right of the people. Education for the girls has to be considered, and a proper health infrastructure should be there, and we need to develop it where people who do not have that much money, they can actually be benefited by it, and they can take care of their illness. Because whenever someone falls ill, and basically in the lower middle class or in the third class, if someone falls ill, it puts lot of strain on the financial status of that family. Okay, so if government works on the health infrastructure, a proper health infrastructure gets developed in our country, then these people may get their treatment at very low cost, or sometimes for free of cost. Okay, conclusion then, guys, that second portion that we were discussing, it was the body of the answer. Then you have to conclude it. While ISDI provides a snapshot of development potential, ISDI offers a truer measure of inclusive growth by revealing inequality induced losses. For India, prioritizing ISDI based policies is essential to achieve equitable and sustainable human development. So from the perspective of India, where we have a lot of inequality, it becomes essential for us to look at the figures of ISDI, so that we can extend the benefits to those who actually need it. Understood? Okay, so this was the first question, very easy, based on inequality, SDI and ISDI, quite predictable question it was. Next question, question number 2, according to your paper, what are the challenges before the Indian economy when the world is moving away from free trade and multilateralism to protectionism and bilateralism? How can these challenges be met? See guys, this was again a very expected question, and in my GS batches I have told several times to the student that you have to keep, or you have to be mindful of the concurrent scenario of economy, because questions are asked from the concurrent scenario only. As we observe now that Trump has imposed 50% tariff on India, right? 25% has become effective, remaining 25% would be effective from 27th of August, right? Now, this is a hot topic, and obviously we were expecting question from this topic. So yeah, a question has been asked. Here are few terms. I want to explain you these two terms before moving on with the answer. First is protectionism, okay, and free trade. These two things we have to understand. See guys, protectionism, that means protectionist policies that are being adopted by the countries. Now what are these protectionist policies? Protectionist policies are being applied by the company to protect their indigenous industries. Indigenous industries means industries of their own country, companies, domestic companies. Okay, so to protect their domestic companies, the companies which belong to that country itself, for example in India we can say Tata, Reliance, Adani, all those indigenous countries which are being run by Indians, and these companies belong to India. These are indigenous companies. So what country does is, country tries to protect these companies. How and why protection is needed? See, protection is needed because if we talk about India, so we got our freedom in 1947, okay, whereas there were other countries at that time, for example US, who had their freedom many years back, nearly 175 years back. So these countries, they were 175 years ahead of us. Same was the case in industrialization and manufacturing. Since these countries were ahead of us, so their industries were way more prosperous and developed than our industries, because we started from ABC in 1950, and those countries had already reached a certain height in manufacturing sector. Now, when we talk about international trade, so what's going to happen is that when such countries, such advanced countries, they are going to export their goods to our country, what is going to happen here will be that since those countries are advanced, their industries are more old and prosperous than ours. Our industries are actually infant industries in comparison to those mega industries. Then the product sent by those countries will be cheap and it will be of better quality, right? And when some, why cheap? Here economies of scale would be applied. What is the meaning of economies of scale? That when the production is done in the large scale, the cost of production reduces. Obviously, see, there are certain fixed costs that you have to, or that a businessman has to incur. If someone wants to produce something, produce a good, he has to take a land, and if he will take a land, he has to pay rent of it. That is a fixed cost. So doesn't matter if he's producing too many goods or few goods, he has to pay rent, he has to pay electricity bill. In order to purchase a machine, just giving you an example, he has to take a loan from the bank, so he has to pay interest installment on that loan that he has incurred, right? Now if his production is low, and obviously in the initial stages his production will be low because there would not be much demand of his product. So production is low, let's say he's producing 20 goods per day, right? So the cost of all these factors that I just told you, rent, electricity, installment, etc., etc., cost of all these things would be incorporated in what? In these 20 goods only. So the price of these goods will rise. Whereas someone who is producing 1000 goods in a day, the cost of these same factors will be incorporated or distributed in 1000 goods. So his cost of good, his price of good will be lower. That's what the case is with India and other countries which are developed. Their cost of product is lower, ours is higher. So how can we compete when such products would be there in our market? Then people will obviously purchase those products because they are brands and their price is also lower, and therefore our industries would not be able to sell out their product, right? So our industries are going to suffer. Due to this, there is a methodology called as protectionist methodology. What happens in protectionist methodology? There are certain things that, or certain tools that are being used by the government. First of the tool is tariff. So what happens in tariff? Let's say a US t-shirt comes to India, cost or price of that t-shirt is 100 rupee, and let's say India imposes 40% tariff on it. Tariff means tax. So now the price of t-shirt has become 140, right? Okay, so now the price of US t-shirt is 140, and let's say price of Indian t-shirt is 130 in Indian market. So what will consumers do? They will purchase Indian t-shirt, right? Thereby our industries will be protected. Yeah. Second measure is export subsidy. What happens in export subsidy? That when we are going to export, as our price will be higher, let's say price of our exported good is 200 rupees, shoes, we exported shoes to US and the price of shoes is 200. Now in US the price of same quality, okay, I'm not talking about quantity, quality, same quality shoe are being provided in US for 180 rupees. So now it becomes very obvious, US people will purchase this 180 rupee shoe rather than 200 rupee shoe because ours is expensive. So here government enters and it provides export subsidy. What government says to the manufacturer, to the Indian manufacturer is that, see, cost of your shoe or the price of your shoe is 200 rupee. You do not charge 200, you charge 170. Put the price as 170. So obviously manufacturer will object that then I will suffer the loss of 30 rupee. So the government says no problem, I'll give you 30 rupees. This is a subsidy given by the government to the exporter. So now the price of Indian shoe will be 170. So that's competitive. Now US people will purchase Indian shoe. Getting my point? In the same way, another tool is quota. Quota is that if government puts a quota on certain segment, let's say 40% quota government has put, that means that 40% is reserved in that segment for Indian goods. Remaining 3% can be from foreign, but 40% is for Indians only. So now Indian industries will not suffer that much loss. Okay, so these are the protectionist tools, and when a country follows or applies these tools, it is said that country is using protectionism. Country is following the concept of protectionism. Getting my point? And what we are observing, that nowadays many countries are using these tools of protectionism. And when countries are going to use the protectionism tools, what will happen? International trade is going to suffer. Right? Here comes the concept of free trade. In free trade, what is done? All these tools are not used. Every country is free. They can sell their product, no tariff or very low tariff will be applied. These quotas, subsidy, these things will not be used. Why? Free trade is being propagated so that there can be the multilateral trade. That's what multilateralism means. Entire world can be turned into a big market where each and every country can get its share of export. Okay, so that's why multilateralism of free trade was being propagated by World Trade Organization and all. But now, as we see, US is shifting towards protectionism. US Trump is applying tariff and tariffs. And due to this, what will happen? A sort of tariff war would start. Because if US is applying tariff, in news, it was there 2 days back, European Union has said, and it has said bluntly, that if Trump will apply tariff on European goods, we would hardly take 1 hour and we are going to reciprocate it. That means whatever tariff Trump is going to apply on European goods, European Union within an hour will apply equal amount of tariff on American goods. See, that's what China did, and that's why US is postponing it. Trump said 25% tariff, China said, okay, we are also applying 25% tariff. Trump said 50%, they said 50%, 75, 75, reciprocating. This is a war. And who is going to suffer? Consumers are going to suffer, industries are going to suffer with this tariff war. Okay, so you can begin with the introduction, that the shift from free trade, which I just told you, and multilateralism to protectionism and bilateralism has not only economic but also deep societal implications for India, because India is a developing country linked to society. It impacts livelihoods, inequality, and social injustice. Guys, how it affects the livelihood? Let me give you an example of textile and apparel industry in India. Our textile and apparel industry, which provides employment to nearly 4 CR people. 4 crore people are associated with textile and apparel industry in India. Now, textile industry thrives on exports, and our major market is US market. So these textiles which were being produced in India, they were exported to US market. US was a huge market for us. And it's not like that markets are being developed in a day. It takes decades and decades of efforts and relation building to develop a market. So it has been nearly 3 decades that Indian exporters, textile exporters, have put in their efforts, and then US market was made. Now Trump has imposed 50% tariff that is directly going to affect our textile and apparel industry. Right, our exports are going to decline, because just now I explained what tariff does. Now textiles will become expensive for US consumers, right? 50% tariff. So let's say the price of Indian handloom or Indian textile was 1000 rupees. I'm talking in rupees so that you can fathom it. Was 1000 rupees. Now the price of same will become 1500 rupees. So why would Americans purchase such costly textile? Right, when the alternative is being provided by Bangladesh, because nearly 0% tariff is there on Bangladesh textile. So they will purchase the textile of Bangladesh. Hence, our trade is going to suffer. So we are not going to produce that much when our goods are not getting sold out in the US market. And when production will reduce, then what will happen? People will lose their jobs. When companies are going to produce less, then why would they hire extra workforce? They are going to kick them out. So it would affect our employment. People are going to lose their livelihood. So that's what the impact, societal impact is, right? Challenges to Indian society: employment insecurity, as I told you, export driven sectors like textile, IT, gems and jewelry employ millions. Protectionism threatens jobs. Farmers' vulnerability, reduced agri export. The export of agricultural produce is also going to decline. Affects small farmers' income. Thereby, the income of small farmers will be affected. Inequality, global restrictions may widen the rural, urban, and rich poor gap. Obviously, when so many people, I already gave you the figure that how many people are employed in these sectors, and when production of these sectors will decline, these people will lose their jobs. And when they will lose their jobs, obviously they are not going to get wages. So again, more people will become poor. Hence, rich poor divide is going to increase. Migration and remittances, barriers to labor mobility affect Indian diaspora and families dependent on remittances. See guys, what happened was, or what used to happen was, that in India, actually our IT sector and fintech, financial technology, we used to export it a lot. Not only the technology and IT solutions, our people also used to go and work abroad, okay, because India was considered quite strong in IT sector, okay. So our people, our engineers, they used to go and work in Google, they used to go and work in Microsoft, Intel, in such companies, okay, and they used to be paid there, they used to get their wages there, and they used to send a part of their salary back to India to their family, right? Now their parents of such engineers, such technicians, those parents were dependent on this remittance that was being sent by their children from abroad. Now, due to these policies of protectionism, and we are observing that what Trump is trying to do, Trump is actually trying, and he's saying out front that give the jobs to Americans, don't give jobs to Indians, employ our own workforce. And he has given instructions also to various companies like Apple that do not put the plant there in India. Okay, bring it back to manufacture in US. He's instructing Google, Intel, all these big companies that no, give jobs to American, don't give jobs to Indian diaspora. So what would happen? The families that were dependent on this remittances, they are going to lose it, right or wrong? Thereby, it is again going to affect the livelihood, it is going to affect the society. Social cohesion, economic stress from job losses or reduced opportunities can fuel unrest, social exclusion. See guys, when people are going to lose their jobs, when people are going to lose the remittances, what will happen? A social upheaval would be there. They would be alienated from the society. Without money, how can you be the part of the society? So such and these things will have very negative impact on the society, right? Then how to address these challenges? This is a big problem. AI was already a threatening force for jobs. Now this recent development is also challenging our job scenario. So see, inclusive policies, social safety nets for workers and farmers affected by external shock. Now government has to be in the alarm mode, and government has to frame such policies that the workers, farmers who are being affected by this sudden development, there should be certain steps taken by the government, certain policies should be made by the government that we can reduce the shock that has been inflicted on such people, okay? Second is skill development. We have to develop our skills, okay? We have to develop and acquire new skills so that we can counter this shock and we can earn our livelihood in other fields as well. Okay. Diversification, as I told you, we should not be dependent on only one thing. We should diversify. India should diversify its market as well. We were dependent on US for our export of textile, apparels, gems, spices. Now we have to look out into other markets, so that it's a time taking process, but at least we have to start. And it's very good to say that Modi government, our present government, has already started this practice. We are extending business and economical bonds with Russia, China. We are looking for the market in Asian countries. Okay, so all these efforts are being made by the government. Government has also launched 20,000 CR export incentive policy. In upcoming years, government is going to provide these incentives to the exporters, so that the shock or the blow that our export segment got, it can be neutralized. Okay. Community empowerment, strengthen SHGs, cooperatives and women-led enterprises to cushion local economies. So now what we have to do, we have to look for the women-led enterprises. Okay, the enterprises that are being led by women. If we support these enterprises, if we support these small industries that are being run in our country, okay, if we provide support to them, so these industries will grow, these segments will grow, and the loss that we are encountering in the case of export, it can be managed from here. Okay. Regional partnership, use South-South cooperation to create equitable, as I told you, new markets we have to look for. We have to look for new partnerships. We have to make new FTAs, free trade agreements with the countries, so that our export segment doesn't suffer. The conclusion, India must view protectionist pressures not only as economic hurdles, but also as societal challenge, because it is a societal challenge. By blending growth with social protection, equity and resilience, India can ensure that global shifts do not undermine inclusive development. So the steps that have been illustrated above, by taking these steps, we can make sure that these shocks do not affect our society and do not give that much blow to our GDP. Understood? Okay, moving on. Next question, explain how the Fiscal Health Index FHI can be used as a tool for assessing the fiscal performance of states in India. In what way would it encourage the states to adopt prudent and sustainable fiscal policies? See guys, when we talk about fiscal policies, what are actually fiscal policies? Fiscal policies are the policies. There are actually two types of policies in an economy. One is monetary policy, another is fiscal policy, and both of these policies go hand in hand in shaping the economic policies of a country. Okay, and in encountering any discrepancy that might arise in an economy, like inflation, deflation, low growth, etc. Monetary policy is being framed by the central bank of the country. In India, Reserve Bank of India frames the monetary policy. Okay, and it takes certain measures. Monetary policy governs the money supply and interest rate of the country. Fiscal policy of a country is being framed by the government of that country. There are certain fiscal tools which government uses in implementing the fiscal policy and countering the illness or the problems of inflation, deflation, etc. What are these fiscal tools? Fiscal tools are taxation, then borrowing, the borrowing that a government does from maybe from the people or from the outside abroad. Okay, and then government is spending, the amount of money that is also called as government expenditure, government spends. So these are the tools. Okay, when we talk about fiscal health, what we are actually trying to say is that the budget of the government, the budget that government has, that this much revenue government got and this much expenditure government has. So government has to spend this money quite wisely, and it has to use this money for the development of the country. And when I'm talking of the government, it means union government, central government, as well as the state government. States should also be mindful of their fiscal policies and their fiscal expenditure. The expenditure they are incurring, it should not go into vain. it should not be wasteful. It should be used for the development and growth of the state, for the infrastructure development, for providing jobs to the people of the state. That's what we mean here. Okay. So now see how to frame the answer. First of all, the introduction. Fiscal health of a state is not just an economic concern, but also a societal one, since public finance means the government finance, okay, directly impacts welfare schemes that are being launched for the people who actually need it, okay, who do not have that many means. In welfare schemes, we can take example. For example, Modi government is giving free ration to 80 CR people. Free monthly ration to 80 CR people is being provided. What is this? This is a welfare scheme. Government gives you subsidies. On gas cylinder, you get subsidy. Let's say price of gas cylinder is 1600, but government gives you subsidy. You get the cylinder for 1100. So who is paying remaining 500? Government is paying for it, right? Government provides subsidy in fertilizers, urea. Bag of urea, its cost or price is 800, but farmers are getting it for 300, 400. Who is paying remaining 400? Government is paying. So all these come under welfare schemes and subsidies. Social justice and the quality of life of marginalized groups. Marginalized group means groups who do not have that much access to the sources and to the resources, okay. You can say underprivileged groups, okay. The fiscal health index, FHI, measures this linkage. So FHI measures these parameters only. FHI as a tool to assess societal outcomes. Social spending quality evaluates whether state prioritize health, education and welfare over populist subsidies. So FHI, it is an index, and index is what? Index, always remember guys, index gives you the comparative result. Index always compares the things. For example, percentage is an index. Let's say you got 80% marks. So 80% means what? 100% is the total. So it is giving you comparative analysis that out of 100%, you are getting 80%. Right? So by comparative analysis, it gives you the exact picture. So FHI, it is an index. It compares and gives the result. So it is going to tell you that whether the states are working or are they spending on health, education, welfare, right? Or they are using the finance, they are using the money to win the election. When I say to win the election, I mean the schemes that are very popular. When they will launch such schemes, people are going to vote for them. So that should not be the case. Of government should spend on the welfare, it should spend on the education. Education is not that popular scheme, right? We have seen in the past the announcements that were done by the government, giving laptops, giving free mobiles. What is all this? These are populist schemes. Yes, they were not framing schemes for health, not building hospitals, not framing schemes for education. See, what education does is, it makes the people, it makes the labor force a skillful force. And when the labor force will become a skillful force, their earning capacity would increase, the production capacity would increase. That would be beneficial for them in long term, as well as for the economy as a whole. But many governments, they were using populist schemes, okay. Next is regional equity, highlights fiscal disparities between richer and poor states, influencing balanced development. So when we talk about regional equity, FHI tells you that which states are rich and which are poor, how much is a gap. Thereby the focus can be made on the poorer state so that they can develop, right? Accountability encourages transparency in welfare expenditure, reducing leakages in DBT, direct benefit transfer, PDS and scholarship. So see, when we talk about accountability, it should not be the case that government is sending the money, but the brokers who are there in between, they are enjoying or getting benefits of that money. Rather, the people who need it, they should be benefited from the money that is being sent by the government. That's why the scheme of DBT is there. Direct benefit transfer. So now the money would be is being transferred by the government directly into the account of the beneficiary, or directly into the account of someone who needs it. So now the leakage means government was sending it from for someone who needs it, but these brokers, they were getting paid, they were using that money. That is leakage. The channel was set now from government to the beneficiary, but someone in between is taking advantage. That is leakage. So all these things can be avoided, and FHI measures these things, that whether the beneficiaries are getting actually the benefit of these schemes or not. Okay. Inclusive growth assesses sustainability of state finances, ensuring continued support for vulnerability groups, tribals, women, rural, poor. So what it does is it gives the exact picture that whether such groups which were being ignored from long period of time, whether they are actually getting the benefit or not, whether they are actually growing or not, it gives you the real picture of it. Understanding? Yeah. Next is integrational justice, prevents burdening future generational, intergenerational justice, prevents burdening future generational with unsustainable debt. And by doing so, what it does is, see, poverty. Let me give you an example of poverty. Poverty was a curse. The poverty was being transferred from one generation to another, because people of a generation were not having these resources. They were not having access to education, for example, for that sake. So when they will not be educated, how can they move out of the clutches of poverty? Instead of developing them, government used to employ the populist scheme, giving short-term benefits. Not a, if government would have educated them, then maybe after a generation they would have came out of the clutches of poverty. But what government did, government provided, government made them freebies, providing things for free. This is a populist scheme. This does not have long-term benefit. The approach should be to give the long-term benefit so that these people can come out of the clutches of poverty. Understood? Next is encouraging prudent and sustainable fiscal policy. Social investment focus incentivizes capital outlay in healthcare, education, and infrastructure that benefits society. Government should invest in education, healthcare, and infrastructure so that society can be benefited. Discourages populism. As I told you, populist schemes should be discouraged. Rather, money should be spent on long-term schemes which are going to develop the infrastructure. Empowers communities, sound fiscal health, ensures stable funding of SHGs, rural employment, Manrega, and societal protection schemes. Then it strengthens trust in governance, and if government is going to follow such policy, then people are going to trust the government and it will be beneficial. Finally, you can conclude it by saying FHI is not just a fiscal tool but a social accountability instrument. Yes or no? It gives you the social accountability. By linking state finances with human development outcomes, it ensures that growth is equitable, inclusive, and sustainable, strengthening the social contract between citizens and the state. Clear, guys? Next question, question number 12. Discuss the rationale of the production linked incentives, PLI schemes. What are its achievements? In what way can the functioning and outcomes of the schemes be improved? So they are talking about PLI schemes, and nowadays it is quite much in news. Government is giving incentives for the production. Why government is doing so? Government is doing so in order to help the producers, in order to help the MSMEs, micro, small, medium scale industries, right? They need certain incentivization to pop up, to grow, to develop. They need such measures, else they will not be able to thrive. So that's why government has launched PLI, and a question has been asked on it. So let's see. So see, the production linked incentive PLI schemes launched in 2020 provides financial incentives to firms on incremental production in key sectors, right? So as I told you, it gives financial assistance to the businesses, to the firms who are producing goods and services which are quite much necessary for our economy or which are crucial in our key sectors. If such firms produce in such sectors, then government gives incentives to such firms, okay, financial incentives. It seeks to enhance domestic manufacturing, reduce import, because when our domestic industries will thrive, we will not be much dependent on the foreign goods, our imports will reduce, and integrate India into global value chain. And when our production will increase, then we can be part of that global chain, worldwide chain. We can also export these goods, okay. Rationale of PLI: boosts manufacturing share in GDP. When government is going to incentivize the manufacturers, so more manufacturing units will pop up, more people are going to do the manufacturing of goods. That then what would happen? The GDP, see, presently in our GDP the major share comes from the service sector, right? Manufacturing has got low share in our GDP. By giving incentives for the production of goods, people are going to dwell into the manufacturing and new factories would pop up. Thereby, this share in our GDP from manufacturing sector will increase. Target is of 25% by 2025 under Make in India. Government has targeted that 25% share of GDP should come from manufacturing sector. It's very low as of now. Anyway, reduce import dependence. Obviously, as I told you, dependence on import will reduce, especially in electronics. We import a lot in electronics. You look at your mobile. It will be a rare event if you have got indigenous mobile. All of your mobiles would be imported from foreign countries, from foreign companies. Even you look at what you are wearing. Rare chances you are wearing Indian clothes. It would be some brand, Puma, Nike, whatever. Again, imported. Fine. APIs, solar modules and telecom. Okay. Promotes exports and competitiveness. When we are going to manufacture, so obviously we are going to export it as well. So our export is also going to increase. Attracts FDI, foreign direct investment. What happens in, see guys, there are two types of investment. I will not dwell into it, else it will become a topic in its own. FDI and FII, foreign direct investment and foreign institutional investment. Foreign direct investment is a long-term investment, okay, done by foreigners obviously to be the, and when they invest in a company, in one company mostly. Why? Because they want to be the part of that company. They want to be in the management of that company. So they purchase the shares of that company in bulk. They purchase the 5%, 10% hold or ownership of that company. Okay. So FDI is good because we will get access to foreign currency. More foreign currency will come to our country. So when we are going to thrive in the manufacturing sector, much more FDI will come into our country. Fine. Job creation, obviously jobs will be created because presently service sector is the one providing major jobs. But for being employed in the service sector, one has to be highly educated. One has to possess certain type of skills. Okay. Not that much education is required for, or not that much skill is required to be the part of your manufacturing sector. Getting my point? So it will obviously going to create the jobs. Achievement so far: investment inflows over 1.2 lakh crore committed across 14 sectors. Okay, government is going to invest nearly 1.4 lakh crore. Electronic success, major boost in mobile manufacturing. This is going to provide, as I told you, our manufacturing sector is quite low. By this, what's going to happen? And that too, electronic sector. Mobiles, I give the example. So, mobiles will be manufactured in our country. Apple and Samsung expanded production, and Apple and Samsung have already expanded the production of their mobiles in our country. Okay, then job creation. So lakhs of direct and indirect jobs created in electronics, pharma and telecom. By this way, many jobs will be created. Fine. Export growth, our country is going to export and hence obviously growth will occur. Regional development, new clusters will emerge. See guys, when an industry or when a factory is set up at a place, so a new society develops there. People who are going to work in that industry, people who are going to work in that factory, they will settle in the nearby area. Yes or no? And it won't be like that they are working in one city and they are commuting every day. No, they will settle there, right? So housing societies will develop, and when housing societies will develop, they will need essential commodities to live. So malls will develop, shops will develop. So in this way, entire cluster is going to develop. Okay, beneficial for everyone. Improvement needed, what all we need to do? So ease of compliance, simplify approval and disbursement. Okay, the money that has to be invested and the benefits that government is planning to extend, it should be easy, not much. It should not be like other things that a lot of hard work and jugaad and whatnot is required. That should not be the case. Okay, lobbying and all should not be there. Then broad-based sectors extend to labor-intensive areas. Government should focus on labor-intensive areas so that people can get employment. Okay, balanced regional spread. It should be done in such a way. It should not be like that all the industries would be set up, all the manufacturing units would be set up in 1 or 2 cities only. What about rest of the country? Yeah, so it should be in such a way that everyone gets benefit of it. Then support MSMEs. This will obviously going to provide the support to the MSMEs, and government should start supporting MSMEs because these MSMEs can only fulfill our desires of manufacturing. Okay, monitoring and evaluation, independent audits to measure real output, jobs and export gains. And then things should not be in paper. Things should be on ground level. Government should do the auditing. It should keep a check that the money that has been invested, is it really working in the ground level? How much employment has increased? How much export has increased? So real-time analysis of this should be done. Getting my point, guys? Conclusion, the PLI schemes has catalyzed manufacturing and exports, particularly in electronics, with greater inclusivity, transparency, and regional balance. It can evolve into a long-term driver of India's industrial self-reliance and global competitiveness. Clear, guys? Now, if we talk about agricultural and rural economy, so question number 3 was from agriculture. It was explain the factors influencing the decision of the farmers on the selection of high value crops in India. So guys, when we talk about high value crops, we are talking of what? We are talking of crops which can give good returns to the farmer. Okay, so keeping this in mind, we have to explain. The question is asking us that what are the factors that are influencing the decision of the farmers? What factors influence the decision of the farmers when they decide that whether they have to go for the high value crops or not? What factors determine this decision? Okay. So introduction, high value crops, also called as HVCs, like fruits, vegetables, flowers and spices, are not only economic assets but also carry social significance. They impact farmers' livelihoods. See, if everyone, mostly farmers are growing wheat, grains and rice, there is no diversification. Yes or no? So if you talk about vegetables, fruits, these are expensive. If farmers will grow these crops, they will get higher returns. Yes or no? Right. Food security, nutrition and rural employment patterns, and this can be a good source for rural employment as well. Social factors influencing farmers' decision, income and livelihood. So first factor is income and livelihood. Security. Farmers shift to HVCs for higher incomes, debt repayment and social mobility. As I told you, everyone is producing same wheat, grain and rice, and the income that farmers get from the production of wheat, grain and rice, it is not that significant. So in order to earn more, in order to get social security, farmers shift to high value crops. Next is employment generation. HVCs are labor intensive, involving women and youth in cultivation, packaging and marketing. HVCs are, guys, they employ more and more laborers. So more laborers, women and young people, they also get job, they can also cultivate. So this is also a factor that is influencing farmers' decision to shift towards HVCs. Dietary and nutritional needs. See guys, just by consuming wheat, grains and rice, you will not get all that vitamins and all those things that are required for a balanced diet for your growth. Nutritions are provided by vegetables, fruits. So this is also a factor which is compelling the farmers to move towards HVCs. Community practice and culture. And then culture is also one of the major factor. Let's say there is a society, there is a place where vegetables are only grown. Grandfather was growing vegetable, father is growing vegetables. So obviously child is also going to grow vegetable. He will not start growing sugar canes, right? So this is also a factor. Risk perception in social network. Farmers rely on peer experiences, cooperatives and FPOs before adopting HVCs. See guys, whenever this is very obvious, whenever farmer thinks of growing HVCs, he looks at certain risks as well. He looks at what rate he is going to get in the market, what's the scenario and what time, because you know fruits and vegetables, they will get rotten in a small span of time. So this is also a factor he considers. Okay, so this is also a factor which determines whether he is going to shift to HVCs or not. Then societal outcomes and challenges. If I talk about positives, so it improves rural income, reduces poverty, enhances women's participation, supports nutrition sensitive agriculture. So all these are the positives of HVCs, but there are certain challenges as well. Perishability leads to distress sale, affecting small farmers. As I told you, the shelf life means life on shelf of these vegetables and fruits is small, is low. So this puts a pressure on farmers. What type of pressures? That let's say it's been 2 days and their fruits and vegetables are not getting sold out. So now what they are going to do? They will be under the pressure to sell it out at whatever price they are getting. Yes or no? So they are going to sell it even at loss. Fine. Then market dependence increases vulnerability to exploitation by middlemen. Farmers are dependent on what? See, you and me, we do not go to these mandis where fruits and vegetables are sold in bulk. Who goes? Trader goes, middleman goes, and they exploit the farmers. So this is a challenge. Regional disparities widen as progressive farmers benefit more. Now see, again the thing comes of rich and poor. Big farmers will again be benefited, smalls are going to get suffer. Okay, going to suffer. So conclusion, high value crops are a social equalizer and growth driver when backed by infrastructure, cooperatives and inclusive policies. By linking farmers, especially small holders and women, to market, India can achieve both economic prosperity and social transformation. Clear? Next question again from agriculture is, elaborate the scope and significance of supply chain management of agriculture commodities in India. Introduction. So here the question is asking of the scope and significance of supply chain management of agricultural commodities in India. Actually what question is asking you? Question is asking you to tell that the commodities that are being transferred, because you see from farm, farmers are going to produce the things in their farm. Now these things have to reach our household. Yes or no? So supply chain is very much required here. Yes, there should be a proper supply chain to transfer the products from the farms to the markets to our houses. So what is the scope of it? How the management of supply chain is important? That's what is being asked here. Introduction. Agricultural supply chain management, SCM, refers to the coordinated handling of production, as I told you, will be manufactured in farms. Storage, then it has to be stored somewhere because it is in bulk. Me and you are not going to go and purchase 5 tons of apples, right? So it has to be kept somewhere, stored somewhere where it doesn't get rotten. Transportation, then from there it has to be transported. Processing, if let's say apple jam is being, jam, you know, you spread it on bread and eat it, yeah. So if fruit jam is being manufactured, so these fruits have to be transferred from storage place to the processing unit. So that transportation and marketing of these farms produce. In India, with fragmental farms and perishable commodities, efficient SCM is vital for farmers' income and food security. Guys, SCM becomes very important because if SCM will not be proper here, we are talking about perishable goods. Farm produces perishable, it has got a life. After that, it will get rotten. Yeah, so it becomes very much efficient that you store it properly, you transport it properly, proper mechanism should be there, proper management should be there, right? So scope of agricultural SCM in India: farm to market linkage. As I told you, from the farm where it was produced to the market where it will be sold, there should be a proper linkage here. Connects producers with the mandis. Producers are farmers, mandis where it will be sold. Processors, retailers, and consumers. Me and you are consumers. Infrastructure development, cold chains. Cold chains means cold storage chain. Have you heard the name cold storage? In cold storage, vegetables like potatoes, tomatoes, all these things, fruits or vegetables and fruits are stored. Cold, as the name suggests, it's the refrigerated unit where these things won't get rotten. Okay, their life would increase. So we have to develop it. Warehouses should be there. Logistic network, proper connectivity, trucks and all should be there in sufficient quantity to supply this from farm to the consumers. Agri value addition, food processing, packaging, grading and branding. See guys, if you get apple in a market, you purchase it at a lower price. But if you go to a mall, same apple, you give higher prices for it. What has happened? Branding, right? Same apple, if it is being processed and a jam is manufactured out of it, you will pay further more. What is being done? Same apple was there. You were initially paying 50 rupees for it. Now you are paying 500 for it. What has been done? Processing of it is done. So this has to be developed in India so that farmers can get benefit of it. Yes or no? They can earn properly. Then export competitiveness facilitates meeting global quality standards for commodities like spices, basmati rice and horticulture. Horticulture means here the fruits will be manufactured. That's what horticulture means. Okay, fruits will be grown. So we have to grow fruits, we have to keep the things in such a way, management should be such that we can export it, because we export spices, right? We should be able to export our fruits, we should be able to export our vegetables, and for that proper management and supply chain management is required. SCM should be proper. Then digital integration, use of blockchain, AI, drones and for traceability and efficiency. We should use the technology for our benefit. We should use the technology to transfer information, to keep track of that where these things are being stored. Okay, what's the real time situation of the storage of the mandis, all these things we should be able to do with the help of technology. We should employ technology here. Then inclusive institution, role of FPOs, cooperatives, SHGs in collective marketing and reducing middleman dependence. Now see, it's not only the government that has to participate, it is the work which has to be done by several agencies to get the result that we desire. It's not the deal of government only. FPOs should come forward, SHGs should come forward, and they have to look into it that farmers are not getting exploited. In mandis, farmers are getting proper rate for their produce. All these things have to be taken care by collectively. Okay, the effort should be collaborative. Okay. Then significance of agriculture SCM, farmer welfare, reduces post-harvest losses. If we are going to do the proper SCM, if there will be proper storage facility and all, then in India, so much of the produce, it gets wasted. Why? Because it gets rotten, gets wasted. By doing proper management, we can prevent 30 to 40% of the perishable. Every year, if 100% is produced, then 30 to 40% will get wasted. We can prevent this wastage. Getting my point, everyone? And ensures better price realization. Consumer benefits, obviously, see guys, we people also, we consumers also face it, that there is shortage of onions or shortage of tomato, and price of tomatoes have skyrocketed. In food items, food inflation, this happens a lot, every other day it is happening. So when this much produce will not go into waste, then we will have the things available na, so prices are not going to skyrocket. Okay, so that will be affordable for the consumers. If you talk about a salaried person, his salary is fixed. Now how will he sustain if the prices are skyrocketing, and that too of the fruits, vegetables and grains? Yes or no? Because these are the requirements, one has to eat. It won't be like that prices have skyrocketed, so okay, eat 2 chapatis instead of 3. So that can't be done. Okay, so that's the reason it's again becomes employment generation, creates rural jobs in logistics. If government is going to set up such mechanism, if government is going to create storage houses, warehouses, cold storage, logistics, so obviously so many people will get employed here itself. It will be the source of employment for rural population, right? People will get job in processing, food packaging and retail sector. So this is a huge sector and it can provide employment to so many people. The problem that's haunting us, the problem of unemployment, much of that problem can be tackled by SCM, right? Because very high skills and high education is not required to get job in these sectors, right? Then food security and nutrition ensures timely distribution and reduces wastage. Obviously, as I told you, wastage will be reduced and you will get the food, you will get the veggies, you will get the fruits when you require, because it will be transferred properly from farm to the market. Global integration, we can also start exporting, thereby becoming the part of global market. Sustainable agriculture. Now, it won't be like agriculture is dependent on monsoon. This year, the growth or the produce was good. Next year, it can be bad. No, it will become sustainable. Agriculture will open up as a major sector. It will provide jobs to so many people of India. More than 50% are still dependent on agriculture. So just imagine how much change it will bring about to their life, right? If I conclude it, so efficient agriculture, SCM, is a strategic necessity for India to double farmers' income. That's what Modi ji said, that the aim is to double the farmers' income, and it can be done by proper management, by proper SCM, by proper maintenance and opening of new warehouses, by opening new cold storages, by improvising on our logistics, by putting emphasis and developing new processing units. I gave you the example that apple can be turned into a fruit jam, apple jam, and jam will be sold for higher prices. By setting up new processing units where the processing means jam has been manufactured and now it needs to be packed. So packaging units can be set up. So it's a huge segment, can provide jobs to so many people, and it can be a turning point for India. And the question came that we discussed of the present scenario when countries are following the policy of protectionism. So by this way, we can develop our indigenous industry, our domestic industry. Just by this, we can provide jobs to so many people. Our dependability on exports will reduce. Yes? Okay. Question number 14 is again from the agriculture segment. Examine the scope of food processing industries in India. And guys, the paper that has come, let me tell you, very predictable paper. Okay, in my classes, I've told several times that it was very obvious that question on tariff or protectionism would come. It has come. In agriculture, obviously, when government is launching so many schemes related to mandis and all, the question, I have provided even notes and all for the same, for the processing units to my GS student, and the direct question, you see, 3 questions have been asked directly from the processing units from SCM and these. And it was quite expected. So the paper, I'll rate it as easy. The paper was easy and the marking would be tough and the cutoff will be high. Okay. So examine the scope of the food processing industries in India. Elaborate the measures taken by the government in the food processing industries for generating employment opportunities. Okay. Again, the same thing, the same story that I explained you, again it has been asked. So you see, sort of repetition. Such important is the topic. Okay. So first of all, what would be the approach in this answer? See, you cannot be that much repetitive. The necessary points you have to illustrate here as well. But this question has to be dealt with the lens of society. That means you have to emphasize more on the societal value in your answer. Okay. So first of all, introduction. Food processing units FPI acts as a bridge between agriculture and consumers, as we just saw, ensuring better value for farmers, reducing post-harvest losses, as I told you, 30 to 40%, that's the data given by the government. 30 to 40% of the produce gets wasted. It can be prevented, right? And generating large-scale employment, especially for rural youth and women. Scope of food processing industries in India, if I talk from the perspective of society, so agriculture base. India is the largest producer of milk, second in fruits and vegetables. Now you might be surprised to know that. We are the second largest producers of fruits and vegetables and largest producers of milk. Getting my point? Globally. But how many people find employment there? Huh? How many people are getting good? Okay, employment can be high. 55% are dependent on it. So you can say that it is employment. But guys, that is not employment. This is called disguised unemployment. The work which can be done by 2 people, 8 people are doing it. So for the name's sake, 8 people are employed. But are they actually employed? No. Yeah. So that's the scenario. But if we develop food processing units in our country, so many people will get real employment. They will get livelihood. Their living standard would improve. And a major cereal grower, we grow cereals as well. Huge raw material availability is here. Employment potential, if we talk about FPIs, that what potential they have for providing employment. Labor intensive sector. Obviously, this is labor intensive sector. So here, your AI is not going to intervene. Here, the tariff policies and protectionist policies adopted by the countries is not going to create a hindrance. Capable of absorbing semi-skilled and unskilled workers. I just discussed in the previous answer that semi-skilled, you do not need PhD to work in the food processing sector. You do not need to qualify UPSC to work in food processing sector, right? Not much skill is required. Women can work. Without much education, youths can work. Okay. Reducing disguised unemployment, as I just said, disguised unemployment in agriculture can be reduced. Women empowerment, and guys, when women works, see, it becomes such a wonderful thing for that household whose women are employed. Why? Because you see, first of all, it reduces the financial burden from the father, from the sole earner of the family. Okay. Secondly, when women earns, she goes outside, she faces the real-time scenario, she understands what world is, and accordingly, she can guide her children. Because women of a house is not only, women of a house actually represents that household. Women of a household also represents the future of the children of the household. So if women will be earning, she'll be free, she'll guide her children accordingly. And that will be such beneficial for the future of the country, because children are the future of the country. Yes, you people are the future of the country. So by women empowerment, if you will empower the women, you are actually empowering the household on the small scale, on the micro scale. You are empowering the rural segment. You are empowering the society, and you are empowering the future of the country as well. Okay. Rural development would occur, enhance farmers' income through value addition, ensures better price realization. Consumer welfare will be there, expands. Obviously, now consumers will have so many options to choose from. You can look at the agricultural products of China. You'll be surprised to know so many sorts of, you have you ever seen this big mango they are growing there? So many sorts of things they are growing. And you look at their food processing units. Okay, so India can also advance in that way. And obviously, when consumers will have so many options, they can choose from. The prices are not going to skyrocket. This will be beneficial for the consumers. Obviously, then we will have export potential. It will give major export boost to us. Our foreign exchange is also going to increase. Yeah. Societal inclusivity engages SHGs, cooperatives, tribal farmers in millet processing, organic products, and local food chains. Our local food chains are also going to develop. Clear, guys? Government measurement for employment and sector growth. What government is doing for it? PM Kisan's Sampada Yojana. Mega food parks set up by government. Cold chain, that is cold storage chain. Infrastructure for agro processing clusters. Okay, clusters, many units. Combination of many units are called clusters. So when many processing units are set up, one is producing jam, one is producing butter, one is producing, let's say, what you call that, fruit candies, etc., etc. One is producing that milk that you have, energy milk and whatnot you get. So sauce, one is producing sauce. All these things, other many processing units combined together is called clusters. Production linked incentive, government is obviously giving incentives to the manufacturers who are working in this. For food processing, 2021, it was launched in 2021, incentivizes ready to eat, processed fruits and vegetables, marine products, organic food, formal job creation is there. Operation Greens launched by government, TOP to total. Tomato, TOP stands for tomato, onion and potato. Plus, and top to total means plus other perishables. Everything is now being incorporated in it. Initially it was for tomato, onion and potato. Now it is for all the perishables including top. Reduces volatility. Obviously it reduces volatility. That means now farmers would not be under the threat or would not be scared that their crop is going to perish, their crop is going to get rotten, so they have to sell it at whatever price they are getting. No, they can send it to processing units, they can sell it there. Anyway, this stabilizes income and employment. Then Pradhan Mantri formalization of food processing enterprises, PMFE, supports 2 lakh micro units, 60,000 SHGs, women and rural jobs will be created. 60,000 women and rural jobs will be created. 100% FDI permitted in food retailing and e-commerce. Any foreign investor, if he wants to become the part of the growth that is going to occur here in food processing, 100% is permitted, they can become. Skill India and NSDC training, food processing courses for youth employability are being provided by the government. Support to SHGs and farmer producer organization, FPOs. Okay, FPOs, see, it is the union of farmers who are producing these goods. Okay, integration into value chains, ensuring inclusive chains. So see, when the groups of farmers will be formed, FPOs will be formed, they are going to safeguard the rights of the farmer, they will prevent the exploitation of the farmers. So government is encouraging the formation of FPOs so that the rights and freedom and rights and freedom of farmers can be safeguarded and exploitation of the farmers can be reduced. Way forward, So again, society centric, it should be that what can be done ahead. Focus on millets, and government is encouraging it. Government is calling it Shri Dhan. Government is encouraging the production of millets. Nutrition based processing, alliance with health and women empowerment. Encourage eco friendly packaging, cold storage and logistics. These are green jobs that are being encouraged by the government. Strengthens MSME and rural cluster. Obviously, MSME would be encouraged by it. Decentralized employment hubs. Now, it won't be like that few cities, Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, these are the hubs for employment. So anyone who wants jobs from UP, Bihar, Bengal, they all migrate here. Now, the employment hubs will be decentralized. It will be developed in your rural areas, so you can get job there itself. So conclusion, the food processing sector in India holds transformative potential by ensuring farmers' prosperity, rural employment, women empowerment, consumer welfare, and export competitiveness. With supportive policies, it can become a major pillar of inclusive, sustainable, socio-economic growth. Clear, guys? Yes or no? Okay. And the last question here. India aims to become, and it is from the semiconductor, again a very expected topic, because currently it was in news that government of India has extended the budget and is laying emphasis on the development of semiconductor devices and semiconductor industry in India. So the question came from it. Two direct questions directly from affiliated to the current affairs. Everyone was aware that this would come. So India aims to become a semiconductor manufacturing hub. What are the challenges faced by the semiconductor industry in India? There was recently an article in Hindus regarding this. The challenges ahead. Okay. Mention the salient features of the India semiconductor mission. Excuse me. Okay. So introduction. Semiconductors are the backbones of modern digital society, powering electronics, AI, defense. See guys, today is the age of AI. Today, even in the rural areas, everyone is having electronic gadgets. Everyone is using mobile. Kids are using mobile play. 4-5-year-old kids are using mobile. They are not, when I say mobile use, I mean they are playing games on it. So you can see the widespread of electronics. You can see the widespread of AI. So, and electronics comes from where? All the electronic gadgets are made from semiconductors. Right? So semiconductor plays a very important role. That's why it is so crucial. Indian government is laying so much emphasis on it. Okay. Automobiles, in automobiles also, automatic cars. You see nowadays, electric cars, again use of semiconductor. Telecommunication. India, with its growing digital economy, aims to become a global hub through the India Semiconductor Mission, ISM. We want to become the hub of semiconductor devices. Okay. Launched in 2021 under Digital India program. Challenges faced by semiconductor industry in India. Capital intensive sector. See, first of all, it is capital intensive. Huge amount of capital is required. Setting up a fab requires investment of 5 to 10 billion dollars. Okay. Deterring private players, and it is such a huge investment that private players, doesn't matter how big a industrial house is, they get deterred. Investing such a huge capital, people get scared. Guys, this scenario is same as it was in 1950. We are setting up a steel plant, we are setting up heavy industries, was deterring for the business houses of that time. That's why PSUs were launched by the government. Government had to interfere, and government had to start the manufacturing of these heavy products. Something like that is required here itself. Government has to intervene, and government has to launch PSUs. And then when it will start growing, then private players will muster the courage, and then they would become the part of it, as it happened in India, right? at that time. Technological gap, India lacks advanced R&D. See, ours is labor intensive country, we are a developing country, and developing countries do not focus on R&D. That's a sin that we have been incurred with, and we have been doing the same thing. We haven't spent much on research and development. You look at the result per annum, how many people get PhD in India per annum? You'll be surprised. Out of 142 billion, how many people do PhDs? PhD is research. We are not into research and development. No one wants to do research. Everyone wants to earn. Yeah. So we lag it. And expertise in sub 10 nanometer chip. NM means nanometer. 10 to the power minus 9 meters. We do not specialize in producing nanometer chips. Manufacturing compared to Taiwan. Taiwan is way ahead. South Korea and US, obviously. Infrastructure deficit. Again, we do not have infrastructure for it. Guys, I did BTech and all from IIT Delhi 17-18 years back. At that time, the scenario of semiconductor industries in India, at that time, 17 years back, I am from electronics and communication engineering only. Okay. Then I did my masters and all and PhD in economics and all. That's a different story. But BTech was from there. So, at that time, what was the situation of semiconductor industry in India? Nearly zero. Nearly. What is it today? Nearly zero. So in past 17 years, this much we have advanced. Okay. So again, infrastructure is lagging, unreliable power supply, water scarcity, and weak logistics raise production cost. So see, power supply, uncertain, electricity shortage, water scarcity, we do not have that much water that we can supply there. Then logistics, the transport, the roads, the connectivity, it is again the issue. Skilled workforce. To work in semiconductor devices, you need engineers, electronics and communication engineers. That's a tough branch. People mostly do computer science and IT. How many engineers of electronics and communication you have? Very few. So workforce is lagging. Limited availability of highly trained semiconductor engineers and technicians. Geopolitical dependencies. India imports most chips, making it vulnerable to supply chain shocks. Example, US, China tech rivalry, Taiwan crisis. Again, the geopolitics. We are importing most of the chips and we are importing from the rivals. If we start manufacturing, just imagine the amount of pressure we will have, unsurmountable pressure. You have already seen the pressure was being built up by Trump on us to open our dairy sector and farming sector. We refused. And the repercussion is imposition of 50% tariff. So when we will start doing this, what will happen to us? Just imagine. Okay, so this is also a big challenge. Limited ecosystem. Again, I told you the ecosystem is not that. We have never been trained and we have never been brought up with the scenario of research and development or of education. All these developed countries, they focus a lot, they spend a lot, they spend billions and billions on research. In US, in UK, scientists are respected, professors are respected. Look at the scenario of India. We do not respect education. Even today, we do not respect scientists. Now it is starting to change, but we do not respect them. So the ecosystem is not there. People do not want to go into that segment. Right? Salient features of India's semiconductor mission. Comprehensive ecosystem development. First of all, we have to develop the ecosystem for it. Support for semiconductor fabs, display fabs, design and packaging units. Okay. Next, financial incentives, up to 50% fiscal supports for fab units, risk sharing with private investor. Government is going to provide 50% of the financial support. Okay, so let's say the unit is set up for 100 CR, so 50 CR government will give you. Okay, taxes and all will be reduced on you. all sort of support that government can provide, government is providing, and it is also sharing the risk with you. Okay. Then design linked incentive. If you are going to designing of semiconductor devices, you, it's not like design, normal design, chip designing. I am talking about VSDL, VLSI, very large scale integration, VSDL. It is a language where chips are designed. Chip designing means chip programming. Okay, so we are talking about that design. So government is providing incentive for that as well. Supports to domestic startups, MSMEs engaged in semiconductor design. So if you will start designing semiconductor, government is going to support you. Talent development, collaboration with academia for chip design and R&D and skill building. Okay. Global partnership, strategic tie-ups with US, Japan, Taiwan and EU for technology transfer and supply chain resilience. India is tying up with Taiwan, with EU to import the technology so that we can set up this in our country. Dedicated nodal agency ISM under Digital India Corporation to coordinate policies and attract investment. Fine. Conclusion, the semiconductor push is not just industrial policy, but a strategic societal transformation. Guys, it is obviously going to change our society and it is the demand of future. We have to develop it here in our country. Ensuring digital sovereignty, employment generation, and reducing import dependency with sustained investment, global collaboration, and skill building. India can transform from being a consumer to a producer in the global chip economy. Okay, so that's what was asked from the section of economy. Okay, so we have completed it. Now there will be the discussion of other portion. So the portion again, as it always happens, that most of the questions come from GS paper 3 only. Sorry, most of the question in GS paper 3 come from the economics only. Same was the case here as well. Many questions were asked from the economics section, and I think you understood that how you were to required to answer these questions and what all was important in from the perspective of economics here. Okay, so thank you guys. Now the discussion of other sections would occur. Thank you.
ये फोन में कौन देख रहा है अरे इतना अच्छा ये भी यूट्यूब लगी हुई हो गया क्या सर्च करना है ये आ नहीं रहा हूँ. अच्छा वो start. Good afternoon, everyone. We'll start with our discussion on GS3 paper, specifically parts of environment, internal security, and disaster management. Moving to the first question, it's about carbon capture, utilization, and storage. This technology, this question is asking, what is this technology? We'll have to explain what this technology is, what components this technology constitutes, and what is the potential role, not just the role but the potential role. So it widens the scope of the answer. Potential role of CCUS in tackling climate change. Now moving on to what this technology is. Carbon capture. So it can be captured through any place wherever carbon emissions are happening, or pre-existing carbon emissions that have happened, legacy emissions as we know it. So from the air it can happen, from industrial sources it can happen. So when you capture this carbon, what all processes do we use? It's a three-step process. So it is captured from sources like power plant, cement and fertilizer unit, and it is also directly captured from air, that is legacy emissions as we know it. So common methods include post-combustion capture. So in a coal plant, post-combustion, out of flue gas, we capture this. It's a post-combustion capture. Pre-combustion capture. Before combustion, there has to be a capture. And oxy-fuel combustion. This involves compressing the captured CO2 into liquid-like state and transporting it via pipelines any place. So once it's captured, it's transported. Okay. This is carbon capture's first step. Second is utilization. How are we utilizing this? One, what are its application? Enhanced oil recovery. It's called EOR, enhanced oil recovery. What is done is, when pumping into the oil fields, this is mixed. This carbon or carbon dioxide is mixed. So it increases the efficiency of oil capture because it's air. It goes into the oil wells and it brings out the oil inside, the crude oil out. So it's easy to capture. Food and beverage industry, carbonated drinks, we all know. Converting into synthetic fuel, mineralization of cement, building materials or chemicals, any kind of synthetic material. Did you guys write yesterday's paper? No? Then storage, where it is stored. So if there is a particular mine and the mining has been completed there, and any kind of oil field that is empty, that has already been extracted, so that is a piece of earth that is from inside, it's empty. So we can pump carbon into it and store it without any uh, escape from there. So the percentage of escape, usually IPCC says the percentage of this escape is only 1% over a period of 1,000 years. So it's a very minute escape. So the risk is very less. Okay. Now it is asking the role in tackling climate change. And it is not just role, it's potential role. So when this kind of question is a 10 marker, first page or 80% of the first page we explain this, and then we move on to the potential role because it gives us a very wide coverage. It reduces the emission in high emitting sectors. So if we capture it from a cement plant or a coal power plant, we capture it from the high emission sector. So we reduce the emission. So sectors like cement, steel, chemicals, they are not fully decarbonized by renewable energy. So problem with renewable energy, you might all know that there is a problem of it providing adequate electricity 24 hours a day. It's a problem. The base load electricity, as it's called. So base load electricity, things like coal and oil can do so, but it releases a lot of carbon. So this is why there is a problem for a country like India. For increasing problems like Europe is coming out with carbon border adjustment mechanisms, things like that. You want your products to not have a lot of emissions. So it gives us a pathway from shifting from oil and gas and coal related our fuel to a more cleaner fuel in the future. This provides us a transition. It reduces the amount of emissions that are happening. So it increases or consolidates the Indian exporting capacity. We'll read about that, the economic benefits. So it reduces emissions in high emitting sectors. Second, net zero pathways. So 8% of the total CO2 reductions by 2050 to meet Paris targets. So International Energy Agency says for us as a world, as a committee of nations, for us to reach the Paris targets by 2050, 1.5 tak rehna hai. That means what? We want 8% of the total removal of carbon through these external technologies, carbon capture technologies. 8%. Data to increase it. Third point. What can happen? What are all potential? Carbon recycle and utilization. So polymers can be created, construction material can be created, reduce fossil fuel dependence. For example, another thing, if we grow a certain kind of grass or certain kind of any fodder material for biofuels, we are doing what? That grass, let's say grass is growing, a wheat is growing, wheat is using what? Carbon from the atmosphere it's taking out to create itself. It's capturing carbon technically. If we use that wheat to create ethanol, that is doing what? It's creating a cleaner fuel. It is doing two things. It is reducing India's oil imports. E20 agar reach karna, it is reducing our oil imports, and it is reducing the carbon recycling and utilization. Negative emission technologies, bioenergy with carbon capture storage. So it's called BECCS. Okay? It involves growing biomass. So now what I explained, this is only. We are creating biofuels like ethanol using crops like wheat or sugarcane to capture carbon and then creating it into clean energy. Then second aspect is direct air capture. Once it's done, it reduces the legacy emissions that the Western countries have already done. Usually the point of Western countries is what? We have already done it. Now all the developing countries or the global south, whatever you are doing, you guys need to stop these emissions because it will be polluted. Now with this technology, the onus falls upon the existing Western emissions. The onus falls upon them to reduce any kind of uh, to reduce any kind of emissions that are existing already there. Fifth, it aids the national hydrogen mission or national green hydrogen mission, as you know it. It supports. So what is blue hydrogen? Blue hydrogen is when hydrogen made out of natural gas. If we create blue hydrogen, we capture everything that is emitted through that blue hydrogen process through carbon capture. That means we have clean green hydrogen, we have clean blue hydrogen. This will help us in transition from a non-hydrogen economy to a hydrogen economy, and then we can shift to green hydrogen economy. So it's a very good transition method. So it supports blue hydrogen production from natural gas with 95% capture, bridging to hydrogen. It acts as a bridge to green hydrogen, because presently green hydrogen capacity is not that much. The renewable capacity to produce is not that much. Even though installations have been done, the production is still very less. Employment generation. So Niti Aayog estimates total 8 to 10 million full-time employment equivalent years. So about 10 million employment years. They are measuring not the amount of employed people that will be, but the amount of employment time that will be created. For example, 8 work hours, 12, 16 work hours. It can be done by 2 people or 1 people in 2 days. Same logic. Energy security and transition enabler. It provides energy security. Energy security how? The stable baseload energy that we need out of coal, out of natural gas, out of traditional energy sources. It provides us India energy stability and provides us a window for transition. It provides us, so if European or Western markets come down heavily on Indian products because they are using unclean technology, we can say that we are capturing anything that is being done, and it opens up Indian products to European markets. Plus, it allows continuous dependent on coal in certain coal regions. So if we suddenly stop coal production, what will happen in areas where in Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand where coal production is happening? The whole economy will go bust. The people's livelihood will be at stake. For a easier transition, we need more and more transition technology like carbon capture. Reduce reliance on imported oil, I have discussed. Climate diplomacy. It positions us as a leader of the global south, that India is leading all the climate transition. 4 is the CBAM. EU and other Western nations may bring in may tax carbon intensive imports. CCUS help Indian industries avoid trade penalties that we are currently using. And fourth, and the last one, flexibility in climate policy is that safety net. So before renewables, we use renewables or nuclear to scale up, we need this as a transition fuel. Okay. There are different kind of conclusions. For example, it creates justice and equality for the global south. Okay, this is one kind of conclusion and way forward. They're not asking about any challenges, anything. Whatever they're asking in 10 or 15 markers, we expand upon how much ever we can in what they're asking. If we want to add something, we add something in way forward or our conclusion and act it as way forward. We won't answer something that is not asked because that won't be marked anymore. So this challenges has not been asked. Need whole of government approach. Whole of government approach is what? Every aspect of the government, every department of the government, every kind of organization is working together towards the same goal. So it needs a whole of government approach to be successful. For example, PSUs such as ONGC or NTPC collaborating with private players in this regard. So another way forward might be integration with the National Hydrogen Mission. So it promotes blue hydrogen using CCUS. Second question. This is easy for you? Okay. No. Seawater incursion in coastal aquifers is a major concern in India. What are the causes for this and remedial measures to combat this hazard? So what is happening is, in the coastal areas, the seawater, freshwater aquifers that are there, which is a very important source of fresh water for people there. Due to seawater or salty water, it's getting inside these aquifers and it's turning freshwater sources into perennial saltwater sources, because once the seawater enters, it salinates the whole aquifer for a very long period of time. So that's the question here. So question asks, what are the causes of this? Two parts of this question, and remedial measures. Causes and remedial measures. introduction will specifically write how important the coastal regions, or what is the scale of coastal region and its contribution to the Indian economy. Second, how much people's livelihood are there. There are 30% of the Indian population who are directly living in coastal areas, so it will affect their freshwater needs. Now, coming on to the question, what are the causes? Causes are two kinds: human and natural causes. If there is a tsunami, that's not our fault. So it's degrading the freshwater sources. So, causes of seawater intrusion in coastal aquifers. One, over extraction of groundwater. What is happening is, once you over extract the groundwater, it creates a vacuum. It needs something to perlocate down it. What happens is, if there is a nearby sea source or a marine source, the brackish water will be seeped down into these aquifers. So once this groundwater goes away, saline water gets in. Second, changes in land use pattern. So land use patterns such as shrimp farming. You want shrimp about 50 kilometers inside the coast. You are farming there. You are using salty water there, seawater there. So over a period of time, those salty water, when it is done at a large scale, those salty water perlocate to the ground level and it makes the fresh water brackish in nature. So changes in land use, the pattern of agriculture is also affecting it. Urbanization and industrialization. As you have seen, some cities, the lakes are almost gone, wetlands are almost gone. So if wetlands are gone, for example, cities like Bangalore, about 21 out of 44 lakes and wetlands have vanished. They haven't been encroached upon, they're vanished. That means what? There is a, due to urbanization, cities like Chennai are facing a huge problem. So Chennai depends on about 20%, water needs of Chennai depends on desalination of seawater. This is the scale. Now, high water demand and unregulated bore wells. So bore wells have been banned in cities like Delhi. But when we go to certain, even any random home, there would be a bore well or motor that is there, even though it is illegal. Similarly, canal and port construction. So it alters the natural water discharge balance. Whenever a river water is coming in a flow, it is pushing the sea water away, so that region closer to the coast has some form of fresh water. That amount of fresh and seawater mixture acts as a buffer at times for seawater to come in. However, this natural balance have been created a problem when there is a lot of water diverted into canals for agricultural purposes. Okay. And shrinking wetlands and mangrove. So, for example, places like Sundarbans, they act as a natural buffer for seawater incursion. The mangrove trees, they stop it. These things, because they are encroached upon, those lands have been converted into different uses, that buffer is now gone. Okay. Yeah, shrinking wetlands and mangrove. So these are the anthropological causes, natural causes. Sea level rise, as we all know. Not necessarily. Salinization can also occur in different areas. It can, of course. So salinization happens when lot of, so salt is in soil also. Salt is in rocks also. Yeah, overuse of fertilizers and things. So groundwater happens through that. Okay. So, but the question especially asks coastal aquifers. So we have to limit our question to our answers to coastal aquifers. So we only answer what is asked, because that will what will be marked. Right? So there are also, in geography you might be reading, lot of lakes in Tibet are saltwater lakes. Because why? When the Himalayas rose, there was a sea between them, and some of the water in the water, or the land that is there, was seabed before. So any kind of water or rainfall or snowfall that happens, it goes to that ground, the underlying salt that is there, the salt properties that is there, it makes the water brackish or salty in nature. So there are very less salt water leaks there. So that means what? There is salinity there also. So it's not necessarily coast, but he's asking us coastal aquifer se ho raha hai to kya ho raha hai exactly. Ah. Then we go to natural causes. Sea level rise is a cause, obvious. No explanation is needed. So climate change is happening. What is happening? Sea water flooding through what? So tsunami comes, sea water moves in, gushes in. All the ponds are filled with sea water. So 20 kilometers within the coast, these things happen. Once sea water is there, for a very long time, it will be sea water. It will be salty water. It will affect it. Tidal effects and storm surges, high tide, significant ingress of sea water into low-lying coastal areas. If sea level is rising, things are going down. And geological factors. For example, sandy aquifers have more perlo. So if there is a sandy aquifer, water will gush in more easily as compared to a clayey aquifer. The kind of soil also matters. Okay, this is a geological factor. Reduced river flow. I have explained this that rainfall pattern is shifting, so the amount of water flow into the ocean that was pushing away the salt water from coastal lands, it is reducing. That's why it's coming in. They have repeated this point, I guess. Yeah, geological factors they have repeated. The first part of the question of a 10 mark we have answered. Second part of one pager that we have to write is what are the remedial measures. First are engineering solutions. We create storm barrages, things like that, or per location tanks, recharge wells, check dams to restore fresh water balance. There is a Gujarat model for this also. Gujarat model says they have successfully made in Saurashtra and Kutch those per location and check dams. So it stops water for a bit, it goes to the ground and it recharges the aquifers, reducing the tendency of seawater incursion. Okay. Coastal embankments and dams. So for storm and high tides, if there are coastal banks are there, it stops the speed in which the tide or storm moves in. So in Marine Drive, you must have seen there are stones, huge stones put in Mumbai, so that the water does not gush and comes to the road. Things like that. Injection well. So any kind of wells that are there in the coastal regions, so you pump fresh water into it, so it creates a buffer. Similarly, rainwater harvesting, it's an obvious thing. Other kinds of solution are mangrove and wetland restoration, seaweed farming. How so? हाँ seaweed, true, because when the tidal forces rise, they act as a what do- they stop it as a cushion. Yes, yes. Seaweed, seaweed farming. In Gujarat. Okay. So it's a national mission for increasing the seaweed farming. Okay. Seaweed is used also in, I guess, pharmaceutical and other things also. I believe. Yes, yes, yes. This is a good point. Ecosystem based approach में ही आएगा seaweed farming. Sand dune conservation. So the coastal dunes, if the coastal sand dunes are there in the beaches and in other areas also, you stop the amount of flow that inflow that is coming. Technological solutions are there just to deal with it. Mitigation purposes, desalination plant, salinity mapping. These are obvious. And there are also policy and communication measures. So in answer, you just write 2 or 3 words for every point. Here there is a regulation specific bill by the Conservation, Protection and Regulation of Groundwater. This is done by CGWB, the Central Groundwater Central government, water, huh, there is communication, there is community participation. For example, Pani Panchayats in Maharashtra, this is a best practice. Pani Panchayats, uh, integrated coastal management zones. So more of an ecosystem approach rather than dealing with as things come. Diversification of sources. So using of wastewater to irrigation reduces the groundwater needs. Groundwater zoning. So groundwater zoning is you say these things, these places that they have critical groundwater resources, and the levels are very low. So people would refrain it from doing any of these things. Efficient water use, sprinkler irrigation, micro irrigation, etc., etc. It's there. This is not asked. Now coming a question on internal security, terrorism. Terrorism anywhere is a threat to peace. Anywhere, it's everywhere. It's a diversion of a quote given by Martin Luther King that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So he has used that base. First is cross-border. So question asked: terrorism is a global scourge. How has it manifested in India? First part of the answer is that. Second part, in that, elaborate with contemporary examples. Second part of the answer, second page, you will write what? What are the countermeasures adopted by the state? Already adopted by the state. It's not asking us to give certain our ideas. It's asking what has been adopted, what has the Indian state done, and what is the recent examples and how it has manifested. Terrorism is a very broad idea right now. In social media, terrorism happens. In areas affected by Maoism, terrorism happens. Cyber terrorism happens. So we open this up. There is also a scope for climate terrorism also. I haven't mentioned it. So cross-border terrorism, conventional, will start with. We all know Pahalgam attack, Uri attack, Mumbai attack. It's not important. Nah. A religious and ideological terrorism. What is this? Radicalization of youth by ISIS. So, if in the Kashmir Valley people are getting affected by terrorism, they are affected by people who are getting trained in terrorism and being infiltrated into the valley. It's not the direct Pakistani army coming and doing things. So, radicalization of youth is creating a problem. Similarly, it did the same in Punjab in 1984. When the movement for Khalistan movement went ahead there, that means there is radicalization happening against the Indian state. Similar ideas in Nagaland. So this is a ideological ideas or religious idea being used to fight them against the Indian state. Third, ethno-nationalist. This is more of a northeast example that one ethnic, greater Nagaland area. So that means ethnicity or nationalism is being used as a tool against the state. That is also a form of terrorism. For example, Ulfa was acting ethnic violence in Manipur. This is also an act of terrorism. Okay. Left-wing extremism is there. We all know about the Red Corridor. Narco-terrorism. So, from the Golden Crescent and the Golden Triangle, narco-terrorism is coming in. Okay. Mundra Port, Seizure, you all know. Lone wolf terrorism or urban terrorism. So you must have seen certain shootouts in churches in New Zealand, in certain bars or restaurants or any nightclub in the US or Europe. So these are the examples of how lone wolf terrorism function. They act as their one-man army. They do. So there is a Coimbatore car blast that was there in 2022. It's an example of that. Then cyber terrorism, of course. So AIMS got hacked. AIMS data center got hacked. So a lot of medical data from AIMS was taken away. There were power outages in Mumbai specifically done, and they blame the Chinese for doing that. So that's cyber terrorism. What are the countermeasures taken by us? First, What all laws have we implemented? What is the legislative measures have we taken? Legislative measures are UAPA we have done. There is UAPA, very stringent law to catch people. Second, to deal with terror financing, what we have done? We have brought in PMLA. Then we have brought in FEMA, that money does not come from outside and radicalizes people here. Then the NIA Act, NIA has been formed through that. And NDPS Act, so that drugs do not get very popular in India. First, so there is the policy mechanism has been dealt with. From policy becomes an institution. What are the institutional measures? NIA got formed, multi-agency. So that's a real-time intelligence sharing among agencies. It's called multi-agency centers. And there is NatGrid. They, for counter-terrorism surveillance, they use NatGrid. Any kind of data is uploaded there. So MHA has also formed this particular thing, counter-terrorism and counter-radicalization division of the MHA. Okay. Now, of course, if there is a terrorist attack, we do surgical strikes. So there is Operation Rising Sun that was done in Myanmar when before the Myanmar government got displaced. Operation Sindoor, we always know. What are the operational measures that we use? Of course, we strike back, but we also, there is a Samadhan doctrine when dealing with left-wing terrorism. It's a dual policy. It's of strength and development. It goes hand in hand. So, for both security and development, the Samadhan doctrine, modernization of police forces, drones, night vision cameras, things like that. You empower the police forces. Counter insurgency operations, Operation All Out in JNK, Samadhan Prahar in Chhattisgarh and Chhattisgarh. So, yeah, so empowering the border forces with that. How with strength India deals with it. And social, economic, and developmental approach. There will be another addition to this aspirational district program called border district development. So border districts are provided certain developmental measures, and border road organization carries out these activities just to involve them into the mainstream of it. So there is less radicalization in border areas. So one is the aspirational district programs. If development is there, people won't go towards fighting the state. They'll work towards the state. So the aspirational district program is a developmental measure. Similarly, border district development programs, skill development. So decline of left-wing violence correlates with road and telecom penetration. People get more and more opportunities to move up the social ladder. Then what all government has done? There is engagement with the FATF and the United Nations. We are trying to get Masood Azhar declared as a terrorist. That's a diplomatic approach of ours. We are failing to do that, but that's a diplomatic outreach. It's done by the government. Bilateral and multilateral cooperation. For example, now recently we brought from US, we brought that guy, no? Tahavur Rana, the guy who was involved in the Mumbai attacks, who was living in the US. We brought him to India, trial in Delhi. So we extradited him, extradition treaty. So Tahavur Rana from USA for Mumbai attacks. Things like this. Another thing we can add is in these multilateral forums, we have also taken up in multilateral forums like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. India is playing an active part in bringing in cyber terrorism or counter terrorism measures, right? Counter terrorism, also in BRICS, it's an agenda. In G20, it was an agenda. Counter terror agenda. BRICS SCO. These are dedicated I4C unit, you must have read. Monitoring, so these are generic points. So what the question is asking us is, We have completed what it is asking us. It asked us what are the countermeasures adopted by the state. We have answered it. In conclusion, we can write a way forward because it's not asking give your opinion on how we can deal with it. It's asking us what we'll write that. Something called whole of society approach. That means community and civic participation in doing things. So religious leaders of that society are asked to deal with these radicalized youth and bring them back to the social order. So whole of society approach. Similarly, soft power tools, Halo India, cultural tools to integrate into Indian society. The government of India recently stated that left-wing extremism will be eliminated by 2026. What do you understand? Okay, this is first line of the statement. It's not asking anything. What do you understand by left-wing extremism? First part. And how are people affected by it? Second part. What measures have been taken by the government to eliminate LWE? Third part. It's a 15 marker, one page for each. Okay. First part he's asking, what do we understand by left-wing extremism? Maoism, Naxalism, Naxalbari, we write, blah blah blah. The main point, the data. In 2023, the government said, the Home Ministry said, we have the, from 2010 levels, that was the peak. Manmohan Singh said that it is the greatest threat to India's integration at that time. In 2010, from to 2023, it has declined by about 77%. The districts that were affected by it, 200 districts were affected by then, the peak time. Now, only 45 districts are affected by it. Means it has the district affected has reduced by 1/4. What 75% reduction there. Now, first part of the question, essential, how are people affected by it? Okay. We have written what we understand by left-wing terrorism, left-wing extremism. It's an ideology, it's dealt with. We can add a few things. It also showcases as urban Naxalism. Okay. So university spaces are being used to perlocate these ideas into youth. Okay. So second part, how has LWE affected people? Okay. One, civilians are caught in the crossfire between Maoists and state forces. Second, there is socio-economic backwardness. Wherever there is a law and order issue, private investment won't come. Government is not able to perlocate there, so government investment is not coming. It's creating a socio-economic challenge. There is a famous line by Robert McNamara. He was a national security advisor, I guess, of US. He says, security is development and development is security. It's a two-pronged approach. That means development and security go hand in hand. So that is what state is pushing, the Samadhan doctrine. Disruption of governance, infrastructure and basic services, lack of private investment in LWE affected areas, leading to a vicious cycle of poverty. The reason of the poverty, cause of the poverty, causality and consequences are same now. There's a keyword, dual victimization. Dual victimization from the Maoists also. They think that you are supporting the government. Government thinks you are supporting the Maoists. Dual victimization and human rights violation. Tribals face dual victimization. Use of child soldiers and forced recruitments. The very term of Salwa Judung model that was there. Yeah. So, now moving on. Migration and displacement. If those things happen, people migrate. Those tribals often migrate to urban areas. And they do what kind of job? Very menial job. They are not very trained workforce. They do not like living in the cities. They do very small scale industrial jobs. Developmental obstruction. So Maoist attack roads, railways, any kind of thing. So development is here there. So you must be, I mean, at least I remember in during the early 2010s, 2008, 2009, the Rajdhani that used to go through that area would have certain bullet marks in the, so they would have preserved that bullet mark just to as a remembrance that this attack can happen on Rajdhani also. So because Rajdhani train at that time was a status symbol, right? Because flights weren't there that much. So telecom towers, erosion of democratic process, that trust in the government, it is eroded if state goes ahead and with the fear that people are participating in Maoist activities or extremist activity, government goes ahead and or the state forces go ahead and start killing someone. It happens in any kind of conflict, in crossfire, civilian deaths and human rights violation happen. It's a reality. In this, what happens was the democratic trust in the government, the popular trust in the government vanishes. That is why a lot of problems are happening in the Kashmir Valley. Still, problems are happening in Punjab. Why? The trust of the people in the government, the democratic process has reduced. The left wing also actively discourages people from participating in elections, often targeting political leaders and local representatives. This undermines democratic process and creates a governance vacuum. What this governance vacuum leads to? Creation of ungoverned spaces. This is a key word, creation of ungoverned spaces. That means that place does not have a government, does not have a state. There is no administration happening. So these ungoverned spaces are places like what? Some seas that are dominated by pirates near Somalia. Those are ungoverned spaces. Some places in Syria where ISIS dominates. Those are ungoverned spaces. There are no services to the people that people are getting. Third part of the question, government measures to eliminate LWE. Security measures. In previous one, we have discussed some of these ideas. So this idea called clear, hold, and build strategy. First to flush out the people, flush out the Maoists. You hold that area, then you build upon services for the people. Then second would be letting the Maoist surrender and providing livelihood to them. Now this is a developmental approach. This is what should be done. So Operation Green Hunt, Samadhan Prahar strategy, focusing on smart leadership, aggression, motivation, acting on actionable intelligence, and eliminating people. So, Ministry of Home Affairs also, there is a financial assistance scheme called Security Related Expenditure (SRE) scheme and Special Infrastructure scheme. So, whatever the forces want to be there, because what happens is they live off in very deep jungles, very far away. Usually in bordering areas, the army focuses on providing provisions. But given that these are very paramilitary forces that are used, they usually do not get so much of facilities that they get in bordering areas usually. There is not so much focus because most of the focus is on Jawans who are there in the bordering areas. These are the areas. Developmental approach, filling infrastructure gaps, aspirational district program, road requirement, Eklavya residential schools. So, residential schools that are there for tribal school children, Eklavya schools are there, so that tribal children go to those schools and the Maoists do not get young minds to imprint or change. Okay, and skill development programs. And what are the governance measures that have been done? PESA Act has been given, so local panchayati institutions get more power to act on it. Forest Rights Act, uh, empowering the tribals in governance and forest rights. There is Panchayati Raj extension, the PESA has been done. Surrender and rehabilitation policy, providing any kind of vocational measures to uh, Maoists. Intelligence sharing. So these are our operational methods of how government is acting. So intelligence sharing, multi-agency centers we have discussed, use of CCTV, etc., GIS mapping. Then in a conclusion, you can write a quote like, "You cannot shoot an ideology, you have to replace it with a bitter one. So things like that. Or even you can use McNamara's idea that secure development is security and security is development. Things like that. You can use it in your answer. This question is over. Next one. You are guys are leaving? Another groundwater based question. Depleting groundwater in India, what are the factors that are responsible for it? Part 1 of the question. Part 2, what are the steps taken by the government to mitigate it? So depletion of groundwater. So two-part question. Now we know the basics about groundwater because we have learned there. The groundwater aquifers we have learned. Now we'll fasten up. First, in the introduction, in one line only or two lines only, we'll give what is the importance of groundwater. So 62% is used for irrigation in India. 85 is rural 85% of rural drinking water comes from groundwater only, and 50% of the urban demand. We are the largest extractor of groundwater. Okay. Now, what are the factors responsible? First part of the question, we answer it immediately. One is agricultural practices. Places like Punjab, places like Western UP, and Rajasthan, flood irrigation, and using flood irrigation for rice and wheat, even though so much naturally so much water is not there. So groundwater is being extracted to pump it there. That is causing salinity to the groundwater also, pollution. Desertification is also happening. Over extraction for irrigation, and similarly water intensive crops in areas such as Marathwada, sugarcane cultivation is there. That is creating a lot of farmer suicides because you are taking a lot of loans for this irrigation to happen. Irrigation does not happen for free. You have to work on that. So it is leading to, so sometimes subsidized electricity is also leading to excessive pumping. कि क्या जा रहा है पानी है. Urbanization. So 21 out of 44 lakes in Bangalore have dried up. Similarly, over reliance on borewell in cities. Similar points are coming up. So this is what one topic we prepare, we use it everywhere. Then there is industrialization, groundwater overuse, contamination. So here we can write another thing. So tanneries in Kanpur. Similarly, in Bengal, there is a lot of arsenic pollution because of this. Once coal is extracted, there are a lot of arsenic that goes into it. So arsenic pollution. Bengal. Lot of districts are being affected. Climate change and rainfall variability. So this means declining rainfall somewhere, increasing rainfall somewhere. This is creating a problem in groundwater recharge. Neglect of traditional water harvesting system, such as the bund systems. The bunds were created, borewells were created. So in Rajasthan, there are a lot of water management systems, natural systems that are going away with tradition. These are not being used. Similarly, there are governance challenges also. So there is a particular act called the Indian Easements Act. So a lot of legal frameworks are based on this Indian Easement Act that says whoever owns the land owns the right inside that land also. That means groundwater is yours to use anyway. So technically a lot of laws are made according to this Indian Easement Act of 1882. So a lot of provisions have not changed. So technically you can't hold somebody accountable for groundwater use in some states. Poor extraction of norms and lack of pricing has created a tragedy for commons. It's common good, it's facing a tragedy. Governance measures. What are the measures that the government has taken? National water policy is there. Groundwater Regulation Act is there. So Central Groundwater Authority issues guidelines for these extractions. Then comes the schemes that are there. Jal Shakti Abhiyan, per drop more crop, catch the rain where it falls when it falls, things like that. There is Atal Bhujal Yojana. So this is important. So it leads to community-led sustainable groundwater management, where gram panchayats play a central role in managing local groundwater resources. Okay, this is Atal Bhujal Yojana. There is National Aquifer Mapping Schemes called NAQUIM. They map all the amount of aquifers or groundwater levels that are there, and then it leads to better management of them, better monitoring of that. Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, per drop more crop, and there is also a Bureau of Water Efficiency that has been created. Okay, so now you see the question they're asking is not very open-ended. Not what you think should happen, what are the recommendations you have, what exactly the government has done. These are the problems. Tell us why are these challenges are there, and tell us what government has done. Question is limiting you to that. Whatever you want to write, write it in way forward or conclusion. There is a demand side management that government has done. Pilot scheme like direct benefits transfer for power subsidy for agriculture. That means you will use, because if the government is giving you 5,000 rupees for electricity, you won't throw away those 5,000 rupees. Na? That's your money. If you save up your electricity needs, that means you have money to save up. So that rationalizes electricity use. Promotion of micro irrigation, crop diversification like millets are now being now coming under what it's called, the minimum support prices. So diversification leads to demand side management. Supply side measures are also there. Artificial recharge structures are being created. So catch the rain campaign, things like that, whatever we have discussed. Community participation, technology, pani panchayats, we have discussed. Water budgeting at ground level. So this is what even a lot of committees have also recommended, that water budgeting should be done. Community should be in charge of where the water should be used. The government should not use it according to its whims and fancies. The community or the commons should be consulted. Now, in conclusion, you write terms like water is to India what oil is to West Asia. So water is so important for India that it is in every aspect of our lives. Given that a lot of people, uh, their livelihood depends on agriculture, and 85% of agriculture runs on irrigation. So runs on depends on what do you say? This data was there, na? About 75% or 80% irrigation is done through groundwater. Irrigated water, 80% comes from groundwater. Rest comes from canals and things like that. Next question. Mineral resources are fundamental to country's economy, and these are exploited by mining. Okay, this is a statement. It's important to country's economy. We have to just address it in the introduction if we want to. We address it. Ideally, we should address it in the introduction only. First part of the question: why is mining considered an environmental hazard? We'll also come back to that arsenic groundwater pollution we read. Second, explain the remedial measures required to reduce the environmental hazard due to mining. So this gives an open-ended. It lets us decide what all remedial measures can be there. Before this, what was happening? What all government has done? It's not for your imagination. You write something, you come up with value points. It's more limited knowledge based. That was question. This was more application based. So we deal with the first statement only. We write that about 2.5% of the GDP directly comes from mining. Because mining being a primary sector, it must have a lot of other applications as well. But directly 2.5% of the GDP comes from mining. Okay. However, unscientific and unregulated minings have caused certain lot of problems. Open cast mining strips away the topsoil, removes the forest. So coal mining in Chhattisgarh's Hasdeo forest, there was a large scale deforestation that happened, and all kinds of livelihoods were taken away by the tribals. Even though they weren't displaced directly, they had to be displaced because there was no livelihood for them. Similarly, air pollution happens. There is blasting, drilling activities that happens, and through that blasting, sometimes forest fire also can happen. So increasing risk of forest fires are there. So soot particles, yes, 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 that must be there, because those dust particles, if they settle on the leaves and the stomata on the leaves, it reduces the growth ability of the trees. Yes, this is a very good point. It reduces the tendency of the tree to grow. So it reduces carbon being reduced. Yes. So we'll add this. So dust particles. So here, dust particles inhibit carbon sequestration, plant growth. Yes, very good value point actually. Plus, the air pollution causes toxic gases. Healthcare वो तो है ही है. Then comes water pollution and scarcity. This is a hazard named as acid mine drainage. It occurs when sulfide minerals is exposed to rocks. They react with air and water to form sulfuric acid, which dissolves and mobilizes heavy metals in the groundwater, contaminating water sources. This leads to arsenic, mercury, and lead in the groundwater. Okay. So what happens is this sulfide minerals, when getting exposed to water, they react as create sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid goes ahead and mobilizes the heavy metals within there and leads to arsenic, mercury, and lead contamination. Hmm? Biomagnification also happens. Huh? Biomagnification also happens because of this. Soil and agricultural loss. If you remove the topsoil of itself, soil and agricultural loss, it's an obvious thing. Biodiversity loss is there. It's a clear-cut thing. Health hazards are there. Uh, Silicosis, pneumoconiosis, hearing loss are there. Similarly, climate change impact. So deforestation reduces carbon sequestration. Dust particles, your point, dust particles reduces growth. There is an increased chance of forest fires also. And landscape is altercated. So open pits and large piles of waste rock, they permanently change the topography of a region. There is no tourism that is going to happen there. People cannot live there. Any kind of developmental activity again has to remove those burdenous things from any place. So it changes the topography itself. Environmental impact assessment. Hmm. So this will be on the impact, na? Yes. So without environmental impact assessment and community participation, it's leading to radicalization against the government. Increased radicalization because low environmental impact assessment, community participation, social impact assessment. Yeah, yeah, this is a very good point. We're using our pre-existing questions to answer this one. Remedial measures to reduce mining risks. Okay, what are the remedial measures? Environmental impact assessment happens. Environmental management plans happen. There is a national mineral policy. What it does is it regulates the first. Initially, what used to happen is there used to be mines that were opened, things were mined, and then after that was closed, that was left like that. So rainwater used to go in. There used to be a lot of problems. People used to get stuck inside open cast minings. Okay, So national mineral policy says, one, you have to do sustainable mining. You have to close that mine after you have mined. And second, you have to carry out the environmental protection things. So there was ban on illegal and unscientific mining. Rat hole mining was also, yeah, monsoon in northeast also, it's Meghalaya, na? हाँ. Mine closure and reclamation plan. Modern mining laws mandate a comprehensive mine closure plan. It outlines that land will be restored once mining is completed. This includes backfilling excavated areas with overburden, stabilizing waste dumps, and covering them with topsoil. So, that carbon capture technology we read, that carbon capture can also be put into these mines, and then these things can happen. Another very important thing. So, companies like the Coal India Limited, it is one of the biggest company in the world. Biggest company in the world when it comes to assets and things. But it is also one of the most inefficient company in the world because of bureaucratic red tapeism and things like that. These companies, what they are using, what technology they are using, are very age-old in nature. Okay. So these are very age-old in nature. This age-old nature of mining, so age-old technology is creating more pollution. There is less efficiency of extraction. So this bureaucratic inertia in companies like Coal India Limited is also affecting the mining, increasing the problems for people. So what we want is, we want reforms in these PSUs by adopting modern and cutting edge extraction techniques to reduce pollution. Okay. Then the fourth is scientific mining and technology. Adopting eco-friendly technologies, drone monitoring, GIS, underground mining wherever feasible instead of open cast mining to go underground, so that there is dust does not come out. Dust suppression system, wastewater recycling, and zero discharge system. Dust suppression system. We'll come to that. The next point is that land and ecosystem restoration. Mandatory mine closure and reclamation plans, compensatory afforestation, and bio reclamation. So bio reclamation means planting the native trees that were there. So that is bio reclamation. Then comes waste management. Yeah, those acid mine discharge needs to be treated before they are sent out. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Then community-centric measures. So district mineral foundation. So lot of funds of these mining district, you will see lot of funds in state, in districts like Keonjhar, the mining fund is huge. The developmental funds given through mining in these districts are huge. It is not being spent adequately. So in total in Orissa, there are about 1 lakh crore that is there out of mining fund that needs to be spent. That is not being spent. So imagine 1 lakh crore. 1 lakh crore is probably the GDP of Delhi. 1 lakh crore is the budget of Delhi. Delhi's budget is about what? 90,000 crores or something. Now, imagine the multiplier effect that 1 lakh crore creates. The amount of job it creates, extra employment it creates, 1 lakh crore worth of infrastructure is huge. So, it is not being adequately used. So, that can be added. Effective use of development funds. Skill training for alternative livelihood for displaced communities. These are that. Polluter pays principle, we apply that. Learning from countries like Australia, Canada, where abandoned mines are converted into biodiversity parks or water reservoirs. So you use that landscape for betterment. Even community participation, actually, I wrote this example. I should have written this in community participation. So community having a say in any kind of role that the company plays. So in Western Australia recently, I guess last year only, the Adani Group took up a coal mine in Western Australia, huge coal mine. But there are a lot of local protests against coal mining because they do not want uh, coal to be burned, ecosystem or climate change to happen, and their Great Barrier Reef there only gets affected. So direct community participation in preserving it. Great Barrier Reef. Solid waste management rules, that's there. Uh, Plastic, uh, 2016, it's also there. Yes. External EPR is there. This is also in electronic waste also. Hmm. Three of them: plastic, electronic, solid waste, and electronic waste. Okay. Write a review on India's climate commitments under Paris Agreement. Again, a very restricted questions under Paris Agreement, and mention how these have been further strengthened in COP26 2021. In this direction, how has the first nationally determined contribution intended by India been updated in 2022? A very restricted question. If you know, you know, you write. It's 15 marker after all. We write what Paris Agreement is in the definition. Okay. Landmark International Treaty, UNFCCC, limiting global warming below 2 degrees Celsius, preferably 1.5 of the pre-industrial level temperature. India is third largest emitter, but per capita is very low. That is our argument. Yeah. So India's commitment as per Paris Agreement, what was that commitment? Let's see. The first nationally determined contribution. So any national NDC, our first NDC, we said by 2030 we'll reduce emission intensity by 33 to 35% by 2030, emission intensity of 2005. Yes, yes, yes. We'll come to that. So how it has changed? Because we achieved this in 2019 only. Okay. Fossil fuel target, non-fossil fuel target, achieve 40% installed electricity capacity from non-fossil fuel sources by 2030 with international support. Okay. Then there is carbon sink creation. Create an additional carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion tons of CO2 equivalent through afforestation and reforestation by 2030. Adaptation measures, enhance investment in climate resilience, agriculture, water health, finance and technology, using climate finance in investing upon these things. Conditional on climate finance and transfer of green technology from developed countries. This was agreed that developed countries will give us these things. How we strengthen this under COP21? The Panchamrit commitment and Panchamrit being changed into our second NDC, national determined contributions. First, reach 500 gigawatts of non-fossil fuel capacity by 2030. Meet 50% of total energy needs by renewables by 2030. Reduce total projected carbon emissions by 1 billion tons by 2030. Achieve net zero by 2070, that is our long-term target. Reduce emission intensity by 45% to 2005 levels. Now we updated our NDC according to that. Intensity target increased to 45%. Higher non-fossil capacity. So 50% cumulative electric power installed capacity from non-fossil fuel based energy. Yes, absolutely. So even though we have moved up to, in some data we have moved up to those 45 55% level in installation capacity, but the amount of generation, power generation that is also happening from there is very low as compared to 15%. So about 70% is still depending on coal power plants. So that is the problem that is happening. Even though our installed capacity is huge, but because of the base load energy, base load energy is the fundamental. That any time you want higher energy, that only is provided through coal or any kind of petroleum based energy. The base
How much do we achieve in terms of energy from renewable resources?
energy from renewable resources.
That is what the target in consumption.
Huh. So in that way, they are saying the what sources are saying, newspaper sources are saying, they're saying even though installed capacity is about 55%, huge installed capacity, actual energy is about 17 to 19% usage. 17 to 19.
17 to 9.
हाँ 17 से 19%. Yes, that's the problem. Carbon sink and adaptation goals. These are generic goals. These haven't changed. We have also added the lifestyle movement, life, and other initiatives we have taken. International Solar Alliance we have done, a CDRI we have done, hydrogen mission are there. So what is the review? What is the review? They're asking that our review on this, our analysis of this. As of 2023, India achieved 175 gigawatt of renewable capacity, about 43% of installed capacity ahead of schedule. But again, there is a catch to that. It is only 16 to 17% of energy being used. Yes. Emission intensity, 33% we completed in 2019. On track to 45% by 2030. This is what Down to Earth says. We were ranked among, in terms of performance, we were ranked among top 10 climate change performance index. Among G20 nations, we are compatible with the 2% pathway. Climate Action Tracker says. Now the question asked, let's go back to the question. How has the first nationally determined contribution needed for India has been updated in 2022? This we have updated. We also written a review, write a review on India's climate commitments. We have also written a review. When they are asking also review to us, if this is a 15 marker, we can put in certain, in that review we can put in certain challenges and way forward. Because it gives us certain scope to work on. Challenges are continued coal dependency, 55% of power generation. 55% is coal. Balancing development, financing and technological constraint. So any kind of financing that is being done, that is through climate finance is not being provided by developed countries. So they promised they'll give $100 billion per year, the Europeans and the Western countries. Yes. So they are not providing. Now this is creating a problem in the developing world. Now they are also coming up with carbon border adjustment mechanism. So first you use fossil fuels to fuel up your economy, you become developed, and now you are taxing other countries for doing the same, and you are not providing whatever money you have promised them, nor are you transferring any kind of technology. So you are inhibiting their growth also. So this is the double standards of that are being created.
We also claim to have achieved that 2.5 billion ton carbon sink creation. State forest of India.
State Forest of India report, na? Yes. Enhanced ambition with net zero. Balanced conclusion only. Moving on. These are all 3-part questions, 15 markers. What are the major challenges to internal security and peace process in northeastern states? First part. Map the various peace accords and agreements initiated by the government in the past decade. 2 parts. 7.5, 7.5 will answer. Again, a very limiting question. You have to know these things. Major security challenges you can write according to your own idea, but peace accords and agreements are something you need to know. So you write an introduction, how Northeast is important, etc., etc. Now coming to the main part, major challenges to internal security and peace process. What are these challenges? Cross-border challenges are there. Arms smuggling, free movement regime in Myanmar that is being used to infiltrate drugs, infiltrate weapons. Ah, immigration. So, post Myanmar coup, we see surge in refugees, small arms flow, and instability along Manipur, Mizoram, and Nagaland frontier. Then ethnic conflict is there. Kuki and Methi clashes in Manipur is the best example for that. Sub-national aspirations. So Bodoland is demanding uh, greater Nagaland movement. So this is a northeast ethnic problem. Narcotics and organized crime. There is an easy flow of heroin, meth, yaba in the Golden Triangle, and drug trade worth 20,000 crores annually. Imagine 20,000 crores of economy, drug economy is running, according to the MHA. There is insurgent groups also. Insurgent groups like Ulfa, NSCN faction. They are spoilers to peace process. They attack certain things. Similarly, interstate border dispute with recently Assam solved a lot of interstate borders disputes with the Home Ministry's intervention by a lot of states. So there was so there were conflict between the state police of these states in terms of jurisdiction. Dispute triggers localized clashes, hampering peace building. So this used to happen. It is also the major concern of AFSPA, human rights violation. Okay. There is information in social media where a lot of fake news and hate speech during Manipur clashes. Yes. So peace accords, so agreement in the last decade. In the last decade, what all agreements have happened? Let's go back to the question. In the past decade, okay, in the past decade 2015 से 2025 तक क्या क्या हुआ है? Very restrictive question. Okay, the first one is the NSCM IM shared sovereignty formula with the Indian Federation. What they did was in Nagaland, they said we won't demand a separate nation, but we want shared sovereignty. That means we also rule our land. So there is more participative governance approach. Okay. Then Naga national political groups. Uh, at present, the final Naga accord is waited. There is disagreement about separate flag and constitution. The Nagaland groups wanted. So this is the present status. But there is a agreement of shared sovereignty formula that is being applied. In Tripura, so NLFT was a organization, or so now they have surrendered their cadres to the Home Ministry. So there is an accord signed between them. There is Bru-Riang quadripartite agreement. This is famous. Bru-Riang issue is famous. There is permanent resettlement of about 37,000 displaced Bru people in Tripura. So Bru people in Tripura were very much displaced because of a lot of immigration from Bangladesh. A lot of Bengali population was going ahead and replacing them from indigenous tribes from Tripura. Then the Tipra-Motha agreement. So Tipra Pact was signed. It addresses land and political rights of specific tribal people there, because now the immigrant population outvotes the tribal population. So they have become a minority, the indigenous population there. Then coming to Assam, the Bodo Accords were signed with the Bodo faction. It created Bodoland territorial region with 15,000 crore package. Okay. Then the Karbi Anglong agreement. Karbi Anglong is a famous region. 5 Karbi groups. Yeah. Uh, 5 Karbi groups. KAC given enhanced powers. So this is the administrative council there. It's given enhanced powers and the developmental package. There was an Adivasi group agreement in Assam. So 8 Adivasi outfits and socio-economic upliftment of T tribe community. The T tribe that was working there. So a lot of immigration happened from Bengal, Orissa, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand region to Assam at that time and from Bihar at that time to work in these tea plantations. Those are also the Adivasi regions where those people are living. So there is a Adivasi group agreement. The DNLA piece. So few things we have to write in actual exam. These are the notes only. And the Ulfa agreement. Ulfa agreement is famous. Ulfa pro-Tox faction signed MOS after decades, and even though there is a other faction of Ulfa that stayed away, but there is a peace agreement in 2023. UNLF peace agreement in Manipur in 2023. So first valley-based Methi insurgent group to sign peace agreement. So Methis have signed a peace agreement with the government. Zeliangrong United Front. So they want peace processes as a ZUF group. We usually read in news. In Manipur, they have agreed to bring in peace. There are also interstate disputes between that was solved in Assam. Assam solved these interstate dispute in 2022-2023 after the, I guess, who is the chief minister? Hemanta Biswa Sarma, na? Hemanta Biswa Sarma, after his government come, they went ahead and created a lot of these agreements with bordering districts. With Assam Meghalaya agreement was there. Assam Arunachal Pradesh agreement was there. The based on Namsai declaration. Okay. When did that happen? The 99th Constitutional Amendment Act or 100th? The exchange of villages with Bangladesh. That time only that happened, na? Some villages in Assam was also given away and taken up. The land border exchange with Bangladesh. Was 2019? Was 2015, no? Yes. 100th one, yes. Measures to consolidate peace. What are the measures that have been done? There is accord making plus disarmament, demobilization, and rehabilitation, the DDR method, with targeted developmental packages. Similar ideas to north left wing extremism areas, the Samadhan strategy. AFSPA needs to be recalibrated. Second, there has to be biometric mapping at gates, fencing priorities, tighter free movement regime. Okay, in Manipur and Mizoram for moving on to Myanmar. Okay, so interstate dispute resolution to shrink triggers for militia mobilization. Then I mean, a lot of feelings in Northeast is that Assam determines a lot of ideas of Northeast. So the splinter groups do not like it. Smaller states do not like it. That Assam dominating everything. So disruption of narco supply chain. So the operation rising and attacking in these areas. Security development twin track method of large infrastructure and social sector outlays. Large infrastructure such as what? Dhola Sadia Setu, largest of them, things like that. So, Mizoram. Hmm. And also there is that project, na, that comes from Myanmar, uh, the railway project, IMT, Kaladan multimodal connectivity project. So this is the twin track, Kaladan. Way forward is you stabilize the relations. This is what you write in conclusion. This has not been asked. So what you write in conclusion. So these are narco terror choke strategy, hotspot policing. So, for example, there are hotspot and you police those areas. So you stop those narco trade. So terror financing stops. Things like that. And then there is institutional accords with third party, involving third party in governance. You also here we also can write the whole of society approach. So in few areas in Manipur, when the violence was going on, there are women groups, civil society, women group of two communities, Methi, especially the Methi communities. They went ahead and stopped this violence because women were being targeted in both communities while violence was happening. Lot of amount of rapes and murders were happening of women. So women group took the initiative to stop this amount of kind of violence. So this is involving so whole of government approach, whole of society approach, involving civil society in governance. Okay. Then the AFSPA 2.0, the recalibrated AFSPA we need, it targeted AFSPA in certain particular districts or regions, not the whole state. So wherever their problem is. Hmm. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. And lot of tribal learning that is there, it also can be preserved by traditional schools. In yes, I mean, including tribal culture in education and tribal languages, it increases the acceptance of tribal community in terms of whatever they want to learn. So mother tongue being your first language of learning, it increases the learning results. Tribal culture in education and hmm? Yes. Hearts created. Yes. This culture also increases tourism in the long run. You create certain products to be sold outside. So, hmm? Swadesh Darshan in Northeast, yes. Swadesh Darshan. Huh. Last question. Why is maritime security vital to protect India's sea trade, and discuss maritime and coastal security challenges and the way forward? When Somalian pirates were attacking, also during 2010s, there was a lot of Somalian pirates attacking all kind of ships in the Red Sea. That time, what happened was those creation of ungoverned spaces increased in the Arabian Sea. So Western Arabian Sea was Somali pirates can come anywhere. So Indian Navy there started acting as a first responder to these problems. Okay. Hmm? Blue water navy. The very idea of blue water navy. We'll come to that. If India wants to be a blue water navy, maritime security is the first thing that we have to do. So, why? Because development is security, security is development. If there is no security, trade cannot happen. That means if one ship gets attacked by the Houthi rebels in Yemen, the Red Sea gets blocked because ships fear to go that way. So investment and development cannot happen, trade cannot happen. So over 95% of India's trade by volume is through sea. Okay? Maritime security is thus vital for economic prosperity, energy, blue economy, and strategic stability. Blue water navy. Why maritime security is vital to protect India's sea trade? What is the first one? Why maritime security is vital to protect India's sea trade? We use those terms as subheadings only, so it's clear to the examiner that we are pinpointing whatever is asked. Second part is discuss maritime and coastal security challenges. This is the second part. Third part is the way forward of it. Okay. It's giving us leeway. First, Arabian Sea has to be secured because our energy imports are from there. And now Bay of Bengal needs to be secured because Russian energy imports are there. That means maritime needs to be secure for India's fundamental energy need. Okay. 80% of India's crude oil import passes by sea, passes passes through Strait of Hormuz and Malaccan Strait. Okay. Strategic sea lanes. So India hosts vital sea lines of communications, locks. So what we want is open SLOCs, that open sea lines of communication. There is no dominance of a one power over it. Any disruption to these SLOCs, SLOCs, threatens India's economic and energy security. So that this is why, this is the why it is vital for us. Okay, 2 minutes. Hmm. Blue economy potential. What is blue economy? Fishing, any kind of resources, any kind of marine products that are used as part of blue economy. Why? Security is important because blue economy can develop. What is blue economy? Seagrass farming, blue economy. We are mining some of the resources in our exclusive economic zone, blue economy. Exactly. Ocean thermal energy. Even using the, what do you say? Ocean algae or it's ocean phytoplanktons and algae as feeder for biofuels. It cleans up. It's a cleaner source of energy, it says. Because they are produced in such a huge number, if you farm them, it produces huge amount of biofuels. Okay. Blue economy. And geopolitical competition. Though string of pearls strategy has to be anyway countered, we need certain ports. The port in Andaman, the Nicobar development project right now, it is to counter the rising influence of Chinese around India. Mausam, Operation Mausam is very important. Yes, Operation Mausam. Uh, Necklace of diamonds, yes. Necklace of diamonds, yes. And national security. Why it is important? So there is three parts. We'll try break it down to three parts. National security के लिए directly important है. Why? Because Mumbai attacks happened through coastal infiltration. Okay. What are the challenges that we face? One is piracy and robbery, ungoverned spaces. It's clear. Second, terrorism and infiltration. We have already addressed. Same point, we are using it. Same limited knowledge, maximum use. China's expanding footprint, naval warship, ham and tota, debt trap diplomacy. It's one thing. Smuggling and narco trafficking. Okay. So in Mundra port, a lot of seizures happened. Yes, huge. So whatever they are doing, whatever challenges we are we're also facing problems such as the open sea line of communication is being dominated by certain Western powers. America is dominating. China, Diego Garcia, America is dominating. China is dominating Malacca, the South China Sea. Exactly. So, and also, of course, the piracy is also very common these days. Lot of instability in Iran, Yemen. It creates a lot of groups that are against governed societies. Now, there is illegal fishing. There are a lot of problems with Sri Lanka we always face through illegal fishing. Coastal vulnerability and infrastructure gaps. Okay. So, lot of ports in India have very limited capacity. That is why all of goods first go to either Dubai, go to Colombo, or go to Singapore. Transshipment port is not there. transshipment port who are trying to create in Kerala right now and another in the Nicobar Islands. But because there are already established players in both the regions, there is Colombo and Singapore there, we are facing a lot of challenges to bringing economy to us. Natural disaster and climate change. So we understand seawater rise is also a problem, but things like tsunami also created a lot of problems. So what is the they are also asked us for a way forward also. So technology and cyber security issues. So shipping lanes, given that they are digitizing, there are also something called dark ports or present ports being used. So what China does is to take Iran's oil, they use something called a dark fleet without any names, without any owners' names, any uh, flag, anything. So dark fleet to taking of the radar system. So do not come under radar. Dark fleet, use of dark fleet to outgo sanctions. So what the government has done is post 2611, there is the creation of an Indian Coast Guard. So Indian Coast Guard Coastal Surveillance Network that was created. Then National Committee for Strategic National Committee on Strengthening Maritime and Coastal Security was created, and Indian Navy as the overall maritime security coordinator. Okay, to become the blue water navy of this area. Sagarmala, the development project, Sagarmala is there. Then National Maritime Security Coordinator is there. And international engagement such as Quad is there. Indian Ocean Naval Symposium is there. There are also a lot of joint exercises. Malabar is there. Then, what is the way forward that they are asking? Biometric ID for all fishing boat and fishermen, because through these fishing boat and fishermen, a lot of infiltration can happen and we won't know anything about it. Second, integrated maritime command. So the defense theaterization of defense commands, we need an integrated maritime command for everything. So there should not be any different operations between the Coast Guard or the Navy. There should be integrated operations. Establishing uniform maritime theater command. Modernization of Navy, expediting the 75A project, 75I project. Yes. Counter narco-terrorism, Colombo Security Conclave using it. Blue economy and sustainability. We need more exploration and finding out rare earth minerals through our deep sea operations. Samudrayan, yes. And maritime diplomacy, using Quad, developing the Chabahar port, developing the Sitwe port to bypass those choke points that are there. Technology driven. So AI driven maritime domain awareness using information fusion centers or Gurgaon. In Gurgaon, these things are created. So to for maritime domain awareness. And secondly, creation of real-time application or monitoring by fishermen themselves. If they see some vessels or see something, they should have a real-time communication with the Navy or any government or the Coast Guard to report any kind of these sightings. So using people as the first line, people as defense. Okay. Huh. So local languages to be used, yes. So India being a net security provider in the Indian Ocean, blue water navy, that's why we need to protect the lifelines of trade, energy, and economy. For India, then here we can also use India being the leader of the global south, Africa being there, Southeast Asia being there, and it is named as Indian Ocean. India needs to be the net security provider of that region, and for that we need an integrated theater command for maritime things. So this we can conclude. This was all environment, energy, environment, internal security, and these things. So that is it. Online, what is happening online? Sorry. Can you come again? Sorry. Yes. Yeah, I understand this hydraulic being used as a source of, I mean, gravity as a source of energy, net potential energy you get, but I don't know whether it's widespread or not. I haven't heard of it. Hmm. It's like more of a the way terrace farming things are done. If a mountain is used as a terrace and it's stored there, not for agriculture or any kind of purposes, it is holding off that and then using hydroelectricity. Acha, हाँ. Yes. Hydroelectric power, I also don't know of any place. This idea I know because what recently has been done is there are few startups that have come up when sun is shining. So how do you store renewable energy like sun? So when sun is shining, they are stacking of big blocks of rocks upon each other. I mean, there are square rocks, square blocks upon each other when the sun is shining. When there is extra energy, using that energy to keep them off each other. They are creating a huge structure on it. When the sun has gone away, now you need energy. You use gravity to do so. So you connect one block from up, you bring that down. So that creates, that rotates, and that creates energy. Pumping is also used. Repumping is also used. But only hydroelectric, I haven't heard of. Yeah. Yes. What? You are here for which class? Which test? Okay, no, economics.
ओके डन। ओके सो वेलकम टू प्लूटस आईएएस एंड आज हम लोग करने वाले हैं साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी के केमिस्ट्री क्वेश्चंस का, जो कि साइंस एंड टेक में इस साल पूछे गए हैं। इस साल एक कमाल की चीज़ देखी गई है। इस साल हम लोगों ने ज़्यादा फोकस किया है रिन्यूएबल रिसोर्सेज पर और बेटर सस्टेनेबल प्रैक्टिसेस की तरफ। जितने भी क्वेश्चन इस बार जीएस में पूछे गए हैं साइंस एंड टेक्स में, वो ज़्यादातर रिलेटेड थे आपके हम लोग जो नए डेवलपमेंट्स कर रहे हैं, हम लोगों का वर्ल्ड लेवल पर कंट्रीब्यूशन क्या है, और इस बाय 2047 हम लोग के जो मेजर गोल्स हैं वो क्या है, कि हम कैसे अपना कार्बन फुटप्रिंट रिड्यूस करें, कैसे एनर्जी एफिशिएंट बनाएं इंडिया को, अपना कैसे हम लोग अपना जितना हम लोग फ्यूल इंपोर्ट करते हैं, जितना फॉसिल फ्यूल्स पे हमारी डिपेंडेंसी है, हम उन्हें कम कैसे कर सकते हैं। सो उन्हीं में से एक क्वेश्चन है सबसे पहला, दैट द फ्यूजन एनर्जी प्रोग्राम in India has steadily evolved over the past few decades. Mention India's contribution to the International Fusion Energy Project, which is International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor (ITER), and what will be its implication of the success on the future goals of energy. So first thing, इस क्वेश्चन को अटेम्प्ट करने के लिए क्वेश्चन में हमें पूछा गया, पहले हमें एक स्टेटमेंट दी गया विच इज द प्रोग्राम, ये हम लोग इवॉल्व कर रहे हैं। सेकेंड, हमें अब बताना है कि कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन क्या है हमारे इसमें और इसके इम्प्लीकेशन क्या हो सकते हैं। फॉर द इंट्रो पार्ट हमारा प्राइमरी एम होना चाहिए कि हम इस चीज़ को एक्सप्लेन कैसे करें, क्या क्या न्यूक्लियर रिएक्टर होता क्या है, यूजेस क्या हैं, इन्वायरमेंटल कॉजेस क्या हैं। अब ध्यान रखिए कि यहाँ पर हमसे पूछा गया है हम लोग इवॉल्व कर रहे हैं, मतलब हम लोग बेटर हो रहे हैं। सो यहाँ पर न्यूक्लियर रिएक्शन से या न्यूक्लियर रिएक्टिविटी से रिलेटेड किसी भी चीज़ में नेगेटिव पॉइंट को हम लोग डिस्कस में नहीं करेंगे, क्योंकि हम अगर बात हमारी अचीवमेंट के लिए कर रहे हैं तो उस चीज़ में इस पर हम ज़्यादा डिस्कशन नहीं करेंगे। सो आंसर के लिए पहली चीज हमने डिफाइन किया कि न्यूक्लियर फ्यूजन होता क्या है, सिग्निफिकेंस क्या है। ये एक लिमिटलेस एनर्जी सोर्स है। यहाँ पर आप गौर से देखेंगे हमें मेंशन नहीं करना है कोई भी नेगेटिव पॉइंट इसके रिगार्डिंग, कि न्यूक्लियर वेस्ट प्रोड्यूस होता है, बाकी चीजें उनसे हमें थोड़ा सा बचना है। फिर हमें मेंशन करना है कि आईटीआर का कोलैबोरेशन क्या है, हमारे लिए इंपॉर्टेंट क्यों है, ठीक है। और ये मेंशन करना है कि इंडिया उन 7 कंट्रीज में पार्टनर है इस कोलैबोरेशन में। नेक्स्ट, अब बताना है इसमें हम लोग का कंट्रीब्यूशन क्या था। अब कंट्रीब्यूशन में देखिए क्या, कंट्रीब्यूशन में हम लोग 9% कंट्रीब्यूशन दिए हैं। इस ना ये देखा जाए तो काफी बड़ा कंट्रीब्यूशन है कंपेयर टू हमारे ओवर द कोर्स ऑफ ईयर हमने जितना डेवलपमेंट किया है, ये बहुत सिग्निफिकेंट नंबर है और हमारा काम है इसे और ज्यादा इंप्रूव करना। अब इन कंट्रीब्यूशन में इन्वॉल्व है सबसे पहले क्रायोस्टैट। क्रायोस्टैट एक ऐसी मशीन है जो बहुत लो टेम्परेचर मेंटेन करने के लिए जानी जाती है। अब क्योंकि जितने भी आपके एटम्स हैं, मॉलिक्यूल्स हैं, वो बहुत ज़्यादा मोशन में होते हैं, तो हम क्या करते हैं, क्रायोस्टेट एक ऐसी मशीन है जो इतना लो टेम्परेचर मेंटेन करती है जहां पर आपके मॉलिक्यूल्स का मोशन लगभग एक जगह स्टेबल सा हो जाए। सो क्रायोस्टेट क्या है, हमारा लार्जेस्ट स्टेनलेस स्टील वैक्यूम चेंबर इन द वर्ल्ड है, और कूलिंग सिस्टम जैसी क्रायोलाइंस और क्रायोजेनिक्स बनाने के लिए। नाउ हम लोगों ने क्या समझा इसमें कि पावर सप्लाई, डायग्नोस्टिक टूल, इन सब में इसका बहुत ज़्यादा यूज है, और रिएक्टर की मेंटेनेंस के लिए जो सिस्टम्स बनाए जाते हैं वो कैसे कर सकते हैं हम लोग। नेक्स्ट, हाँ, अब ये है इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट कि इसमें हमारी इंप्लीकेशन क्या है। ना सबसे पहले इसका फायदा क्या होगा, ग्लोबल लेवल पे हमें मिलेगी एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी। क्यों? क्योंकि हमारी जैसी इंडिया जैसी कंट्री है, थर्ड वर्ल्ड कंट्रीज जो है, हम लोग बहुत ज़्यादा एनर्जी जनरेशन के लिए डिपेंडेंट है फॉसिल फ्यूल्स पर। अब प्रॉब्लम ये है कि हमारी जो कंट्री है इसमें फॉसिल फ्यूल्स का जो यूज़ है वो बहुत एक्सटेंसिव है, मगर उस हिसाब से हमारे पास उतने रिजर्व्स हैं नहीं। तो हम लोग क्या कर रहे हैं, हम लोग स्विच कर रहे हैं बेटर सस्टेनेबल प्रैक्टिस जैसे कि न्यूक्लियर फ्यूजन। न्यूक्लियर फिशन से कई गुना ज़्यादा एनर्जी प्रोड्यूस करता है। इसमें 2 छोटे एटम्स को आप मिलाकर उनके एक बड़ा हेवियर एटम बनाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। सो इससे हमें मिलेगी एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी। फ्यूजन प्रोड्यूसेस इमेंस एनर्जी, मिनिमल फ्यूल्स की जरूरत है, जैसे कि ड्यूटेरियम, हाइड्रोजन, वो छोटे छोटे हाइड्रोजन के नॉर्मल छोटे आइसोटोप्स को भी इस्तेमाल किया जा सकता है, और इससे हमारी फॉसिल फ्यूल पर डिपेंडेंस खत्म होगी। नेक्स्ट, ये एक क्लीन एनर्जी की तरफ जा रहा है। क्यों? क्योंकि यहाँ पर किसी भी तरह की ग्रीन हाउस गैस का एमिशन बिल्कुल जीरो है, और जो रेडियो एक्टिव स्पीशीज बनती है, जैसे कोई हेवियर एटम बनता है, फॉर एग्जांपल अगर मैंने 2 हाइड्रोजन एटम्स को मिलाया तो ज़्यादा कार्बन या फिर बोरॉन की तरफ जाएंगे, जो कि उतनी ज़्यादा दिक्कत है नहीं, और इन्हें बड़ी आराम से स्टोर किया जा सकता है, बड़ी आसानी से दूसरी लेस रिएक्टिव फॉर्म्स में कन्वर्ट किया जा सकता है। देन हमारे पास आता है ग्लोबल कोऑपरेशन, जहां पर हम दुनिया को दिखा सकते हैं कि हम लोग कैसे एनर्जी और क्लाइमेट चेंज को फाइट करने में काम कर रहे हैं। नेक्स्ट आता है नाउ, इससे इंडिया के लिए फायदा क्या क्या है। इंडिया को सबसे बड़ा फायदा है कि हम इससे डोमेस्टिक कैपेसिटी हमारी इंक्रीज हो जाएगी, ठीक है, हमारी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग और बाकी चीज़ें हैं, क्योंकि हम लोग ऐसे सिस्टम्स बनाने में कामयाब हो रहे हैं जो इन कंडीशंस को मेंटेन कर सकता है, जो फ्यूजन को पॉसिबली बहुत आसान कर सकता है। और लॉन्ग टर्म की बात करें, ये करेगी रेवोल्यूशनाइज पावर जनरेशन बाय अचीविंग नेट जीरो कार्बन टारगेट, जो ऑल्सो इंडिया का 2047 का अमृत काल का मेन गोल भी है कि इंडिया को जीरो कार्बन नेशन बनाना है। और आखिर में इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट आप कंक्लूजन ऐड करेंगे जिसमें आप बताएंगे कि आईटीआर कैसे एक माइलस्टोन है हमारे लिए और इंडिया कैसे इस सब में मदद कर सकता है बाकी चीज़ों के साथ, और कैसे हमें फ्यूचर में आने वाली जनरेशंस के लिए, बाकी गोल्स के लिए, और क्या फ्यूचर प्रोस्पेक्ट हैं इंडिया के लिए जो ये ओपन कर सकता है। Now we have how can India achieve energy independence through the clean technology by 2047, as I previously stated कि हमारा 2047 का मेन टारगेट यही है कि जब इंडिया अपने 100 साल पूरे करने वाला है तो हम क्या क्या अचीव करने वाले हैं या हमारे प्राइम गोल्स क्या होने वाले हैं, एंड हाउ कैन बायोटेक प्ले अ क्रूशियल रोल इन दिस एंडेवर, और इसमें बायोटेक का क्या रोल हो सकता है। तो सबसे पहले इंडिया का एम है कि बाय 2047, जो कि हमारा अमृतकाल टारगेट भी है, कि हमें हमारा फॉसिल फ्यूल का इंपोर्ट हो सके जितना हो सके उतना कम करना है और क्लीन एनर्जी रिसोर्सेज की तरफ हमें मूव करना है। अब जो क्लीन टेक्नोलॉजीज और बायोटेक है पुट टुगेदर दे कैन ड्राइव सस्टेनेबल, सिक्योर, सेल्फ रिलायंट एनर्जी, क्योंकि इससे बाकी नेशंस पर जो हमारी डिपेंडेंसी जैसे कि फॉसिल फ्यूल, पेट्रोल और बाकी चीज़ों पर जो हमारी डिपेंडेंसी है वो बहुत ज़्यादा है, ठीक है। हमारा एक्सपोर्ट काफ़ी कम है कंपेयर टू द अमाउंट ऑफ इम्पोर्ट वी डस, और जैसे इंटरनेशनल मार्केट में फॉसिल फ्यूल्स के दाम बढ़ते जा रहे हैं, वैसे देखा जाए तो कंपेरेटिवली लो ही हैं, बट इंडिया में वो बहुत एक्सपेंसिव होता है क्योंकि उसकी प्रोसेसिंग बहुत महंगी पड़ रही है हम लोगों को। सो बेस्ट ऑप्शन ये है कि हम लोग बायोटेक की तरफ स्विच करें ना। इसमें क्या आता है, पाथवे टू एनर्जी इंडिपेंडेंस, ग्रीन टेक्नोलॉजी। तो सबसे पहली चीज हमें रिन्यूएबल सोर्सेज की जरूरत है, यानी कि हमें हमारी सोलर पावर, हाइड्रो पावर, ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन इंडिया को प्रमोट करना है। ऑल्दो इंडिया के पास करीब 180 गीगावाट रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सोर्सेज तो हैं, पर हमारा एम है इसे जितना हो सके उतना ज्यादा एक्सपैंड कर सकें, ठीक है। हमें यहाँ कहीं भी कोई भी नेगेटिव पॉइंट डिस्कस नहीं करना है, ठीक है। नेक्स्ट आता है कि हमें एनर्जी स्टोरेज और स्मार्ट ग्रिड्स चाहिए, क्योंकि ऑब्वियसली ये सारे सिस्टम बनाने के लिए, उतनी एनर्जी स्टोर करने के लिए वो सिस्टम्स भी जरूरी है। तो हमें एनर्जी सिस्टम्स में इन्वेस्ट करना होगा, बेटर बैटरी स्टोरेज और बाकी चीज़ें भी सिस्टम में बनाने पड़ेंगे। फिर आता है इलेक्ट्रिकल ट्रांसपोर्ट्स, जहाँ पर हम लोग देखेंगे कि जैसे जैसे वक्त बढ़ रहा है हम लोग ज़्यादातर आपके पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट्स हैं वो ईवीज में स्विच हो रहे हैं ताकि हम फॉसिल फ्यूल्स को और ज़्यादा मिनिमाइज कर सकें। अब सिचुएशन ये आती है कि जब आप किसी ईवी की तरफ स्विच कर रहे हैं तो इट रिक्वायर्स इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, बट व्हाट इफ हम 100% ईवी अचीव करना बहुत मुश्किल है, खासतौर पे हमारी कंट्री में बात करें तो बहुत ज़्यादा टफ है, जहाँ पर ज़्यादातर रूरल या बाकी एरियाज़ की बात करें हम बहुत ज़्यादा फॉसिल फ्यूल पर डिपेंडेंट हैं। तो उन लोगों का क्या जो ईवी इस्तेमाल नहीं कर सकते, तो उसमें आता है हमारा बायोटेक का रोल कि हम लोग ऐसे फ्यूल जनरेट कर सकते हैं जो आपके ट्रेडिशनल फॉसिल फ्यूल से कम कार्बन एमिशन करें, ठीक है, या फिर ज़्यादा सेफर बाय प्रोडक्ट्स दें। फॉर एग्जांपल हम लोग बायोफ्यूल इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं, बायोडीजल इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं, बट करेंटली देखा जाए तो बायोफ्यूल्स और बायोडीजल्स की एफिशिएंसी भी उतनी ज़्यादा हाई हम अचीव नहीं कर पाए, उनकी प्योरिटी में थोड़ी सी दिक्कत है। बट बायोफ्यूल्स ओवर द कोर्स ऑफ द ईयर हम बात करें फ्यूचर प्रोस्पेक्ट के लिए बहुत अच्छा है। सो हाइड्रोजन के लिए हम बात कर सकते हैं बायोफ्यूल्स, जहां पर हमारे क्रूड ऑयल इंपोर्ट्स को हम लोग कट कर सकते हैं, ठीक। फिर आता है हमारा न्यूक्लियर फ्यूजन रिसर्च, जहां पर हमारी सिविल न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी स्मॉल मॉड्यूलर रिएक्टर्स में कर सकते हैं, जहां पर हमने वापस आईटीआर की बात की है, जहां पर हम लोग फ्यूचर गोल्स की बात कर रहे हैं कि कैसे हम फ्यूचर एनर्जी का इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं। बात करें एफिशिएंसी की तो ये एनर्जी एफिशिएंट है, ग्रीन बिल्डिंग्स बना सकते हैं, रिसाइकल कर सकते हैं मिनरल्स को क्लीन टेक के लिए। नेक्स्ट आता है पॉलिसीज के लिए क्या क्या बात कर सकते हैं। तो देखा जाए नेशनल ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन मिशन के तहत और ईवी पॉलिसी जो हमने निकाली है इन प्रोडक्शन लिंक्ड इंसेंटिव्स, जहां पर हम लोगों को और ज़्यादा प्रमोट कर रहे हैं, जहां पर हम लोगों ने ईवीज पर सब्सिडी प्रोवाइड करा रहे हैं, सोलर पैनल्स पर सब्सिडी प्रोवाइड करा रहे हैं, हम जितना हो सके कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि लोग बेटर प्रैक्टिसेस की तरफ मूव करें, ठीक है। तो हम पॉलिसीज भी उसी हिसाब से फ्रेम कर रहे हैं। नेक्स्ट आता है इस सब में बायोटेक कैसे हेल्प कर सकता है। सबसे पहली चीज़ मैंने बता दी बायोफ्यूल्स, बायोडीजल, बायोगैस एंड सीएनजी। यहाँ पर जो 2G एंड 3G है ये 2G और 3G मेंशन करता है सेकंड जनरेशन एंड थर्ड जनरेशन ऑफ बायोइथेनॉल, जो कि क्रॉप रेसिड्यूज और एल्गी से डिराइव किया जाता है। अगर आप करेंटली देखेंगे तो हम लोग अभी हमारे जितने भी फॉसिल फ्यूल्स आ रहे हैं स्पेशली पेट्रोल, वो इथेनॉल ब्लेंडेड पेट्रोल्स आ रहे हैं, ताकि क्या है कि उसका कार्बन एमिशन हो सके, उसका कम हो सके। इससे दो फायदे हैं, एक पेट्रोल का यूसेज कम है क्योंकि इससे व्हीकल की एफिशिएंसी पे ज़्यादा कुछ फर्क पड़ता नहीं है, पर वही जैसा मैंने बताया कि सेकेंड और थर्ड जनरेशन प्रॉब्लम ये है कि अभी भी हम इनसे ज़्यादा माइलेज निकाल नहीं पा रहे, तो हमारा काम है इन्हें और ज़्यादा बेटर करना। बायोडीजल आपके ऑयल सीड, कुकिंग ऑयल और बाकी चीज़ों से आ सकता है जनरली। देन वी हैव बायोगैस एंड सीएनजी। इसके लिए आप अटैच कर सकते हैं एनिमल वेस्ट का कैसे इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं, सीवेज कैसे इंपॉर्टेंट है, और आप इसमें एक स्कीम है जो कि है SATAT स्कीम, जो आपकी एक्सप्लेन करती है कि कैसे हम लोग बेटर प्लान्स एस्टेब्लिश कर सकते हैं इन चीज़ों के रिगार्डिंग, ताकि कॉमन लोगों को भी इन सब में इन्वॉल्व किया जा सके। एंड आई गेस दैट्स इट नाउ। देन वी हैव एल्गल बायोएनर्जी, हाई यील्डिंग माइक्रो एल्गी, जो जेट फ्यूल के लिए इस्तेमाल की जा सकती है, हाइड्रोजन कैरियर्स के लिए इस्तेमाल की जा सकती है, सिंथेटिक एंजाइम्स और हम ऐसे माइक्रोब्स क्रिएट कर सकते हैं जो बायोमास का फास्ट कन्वर्जन करें, ताकि जितना जल्दी हो सके हम बायोगैस बायोफ्यूल्स प्रोड्यूस कर सकें। क्योंकि यूजुअली बायोगैस और बायोफ्यूल्स को बनाने में एक दिक्कत है कि इसमें एक वक्त लगता है, इट रिक्वायर्स सम टाइम डीकम्पोज होने में, गैसेस के प्रोड्यूस होने में। तो हम ऐसे बैक्टीरिया मॉडिफाई कर सकते हैं विद द हेल्प ऑफ बायोटेक, जो इस प्रोसेस को फास्ट कर दे। ठीक है, हम कार्बन कैप्चर यूटिलाइजेशन टेक्निक जैसे इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं, जहां पर हम CO2 को बायोफ्यूल्स, बायोप्लास्टिक और अदर केमिकल्स में कन्वर्ट कर सके, ताकि दोबारा CO2 का यूसेज जितना हो सके उतना कम कर सके एनवायरनमेंट में। सो इस सबसे कंक्लूजन क्या है कि क्लीन टेक्नोलॉजी और बायोटेक्नोलॉजी का इस्तेमाल करके इंडिया एक लो कार्बन इकोनॉमी बनने की कोशिश बन सकता है, जिससे हम हमारा बाहर की कंट्री पर जो इंपोर्ट्स है उस एनर्जी डिपेंडेंस के लिए उसे कम कर सकते हैं, और इस गोल को अचीव करने का प्लान है हमारा बाय 2047, and this will ensure sustainability, innovation and other factors. Now, अब आता है how does nanotech offer a significant advancement in the field of agriculture? How can this tech helps to uplift the socio-economic stats of the farmer? अब देखिए, सबसे पहले हमारा जो हमें मेन टॉपिक है नैनोटेक को डिस्कस करना है, तो हमें नैनोटेक के लिए पहले नैनोटेक डिफाइन करना होगा। सो नैनोटेक का मतलब है हम ऐसे मटेरियल्स का इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं जिनका साइज नैनो स्केल में हो, यानी 1 से लेकर 100 नैनोमीटर के बीच में। ठीक है, अब बीते कुछ सालों में नैनोटेक ने बहुत प्रोग्रेस की है, और अब हम इसका इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं एग्रीकल्चर को ट्रांसफॉर्म करने के लिए, रेवोल्यूशनाइज करने के लिए। ठीक, इससे होता क्या है, आप ऐसे सिस्टम्स क्रिएट कर सकते हैं जहां पर आप नैनो फर्टिलाइजर बना सकते हैं, ऐसे मिनरल्स जो ऑलरेडी यूजुअली क्या है, जितने भी फर्टिलाइजर्स हैं हमारे, उनके साथ दिक्कत ये है कि वो ऑर्गेनिक कंपाउंड्स हैं, और ऑर्गेनिक कंपाउंड आपके बहुत लार्ज मॉलिक्यूलर मास के होते हैं, तो प्लांट्स के लिए उन्हें डायरेक्टली यूटिलाइज करना बहुत मुश्किल है। इसका मतलब कि अगर मैं किसी क्रॉप के लिए फर्टिलाइजर इस्तेमाल कर रहा हूँ, तो उसमें क्रॉप के एब्जॉर्प्शन में, प्लांट के यूसेज में बहुत टाइम लग जाएगा। ठीक है, या अगर मैं उसे पानी के साथ इस्तेमाल कर रहा हूँ तो उसे ब्रेक डाउन में बहुत टाइम लग जाएगा। वहीं पर नैनोटेक क्या इंश्योर करता है कि मैं इन प्रोडक्ट्स को, जितना मिनरल्स या जो जो प्लांट्स को न्यूट्रिएंट की जरूरत है, मैं उन्हें एक इतने छोटे स्केल पर लेकर आऊँ, या ऐसे डिवाइसेस क्रिएट करूँ जो इस काम को और आसान कर दें, ताकि क्रॉप को मिनरल जल्दी मिल जाए। ठीक है, हम ऐसे सिस्टम क्रिएट कर सकते हैं जो आपके क्या कहते हैं, पेस्ट वगैरह ऑर्गेनिजम्स के अटैक्स के लिए बात को डिटेक्ट कर लें होने से पहले। इससे बहुत फायदे हैं। पहली चीज़, हम एक चीज़ और भी कर सकते हैं, हम ऐसे सिस्टम क्रिएट कर सकते हैं जो वाटर में कि आपकी जो फील्ड है उसमें रिक्वायरमेंट कितनी है वाटर की, ताकि हम इरीगेशन उसी हिसाब से करें, ताकि हम वाटर लॉगिंग और एक्सेस वेस्टेज ऑफ वाटर को बचा सकें। इन सारी चीज़ों में नैनोटेक का बहुत इस्तेमाल है। तो सबसे पहले है हमारे पास नैनोटेक फर्टिलाइजर्स एंड पेस्टिसाइड, which improve the nutrient absorption efficiency, reduce wastage, minimize the harmful chemical use, and promote sustainable farming. Then we have nanosensors, which aid in precision by farming, monitoring soil health, moisture, pest attack real time, ensuring timely intervention. अगर फार्मर को पहले ही पता लग जाए, या जब पेस्ट ने अटैक शुरू ही किया, अगर उन्हें तभी इसका पता लग जाए, तो वो टाइमली अपनी क्रॉप को बचा सकता है। अब इससे फायदा ये होगा कि फसल का नुकसान नहीं होगा, फार्मर्स के पास ज़्यादा मौका है अपनी फसल को बचाने का। और क्योंकि अब न्यूट्रिएंट एब्जॉर्प्शन बेटर है, इसका मतलब प्लांट बहुत अच्छे से नरिश होंगे, तो क्रॉप की क्वालिटी, क्रॉप का अमाउंट, ये सब अच्छा हो जाएगा। और जब क्रॉप की क्वालिटी अच्छी होगी तो ये इंश्योर करता है कि जो फार्मर जब इसे बेचने मार्केट में निकलेगा तो उसके दाम भी अच्छे मिलेंगे। तो सोशो इकोनॉमिक स्टेटस रेस करने में भी इसका बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट काम है। फिर आते हैं हमारे पास नैनो कैरियर्स फॉर जीन डिलीवरी। अब ये किस लिए काम आते हैं? ये आते हैं क्रॉप इंप्रूवमेंट के लिए और उनका रेजिस्टेंस बढ़ाने के लिए किसी भी बायोटिक या एबायोटिक फैक्टर से। बायोटिक फैक्टर जैसे कि आपके कुछ स्पेसिफिक टाइप पेस्ट हैं जो एक स्पेसिफिक टाइप ऑफ क्रॉप के लिए ज़्यादा सेंसिटिव होते हैं बजाय अदर केसेस के लिए, उसे इम्प्रूव कर सकते हैं। फर्टिलाइजर की, ठीक है, इन्वायरमेंट के अगेन ज़्यादा कर सकते हैं कि वो कितना वाटर रेजिस्ट कर सकते हैं, कितना, ठीक है, इन्वायरमेंट के अगेंस्ट ट्रीट कर सकते हैं। देन आता है नैनो फिल्ट्रेशन और वाटर प्यूरिफिकेशन सिस्टम, जहाँ पर हम इंश्योर कर सकते हैं बेटर इरिगेशन और वाटर बॉर्न डिजीज अफेक्टिंग इन रूरल सोसाइटी। क्या है, ठीक है ना। वाटर बॉर्न का मतलब क्या है? अब जो नैनो सिस्टम्स होते हैं ना, उनकी सी खास बात है कि उस सिस्टम की क्या, अगर वाटर में कोई भी अदर सब्सटेंस प्रेजेंट है जो उस वाटर में प्रेजेंट नहीं होना चाहिए, तो ये इंश्योर करता है कि उस वाटर को इस्तेमाल ना किया जाए, ये आपको पहले इन्फॉर्म कर देगा। तो वाटर का ट्रीटमेंट हम टाइमली कर सकते हैं। तो गंदा पानी अगर क्रॉप्स तक पहुंचेगा ही नहीं तो इसका मतलब हमारे पास और मौके हैं क्रॉप को बचाने के लिए। इसका इस्तेमाल होता है फूड प्रिजर्वेशन में, जहाँ नैनो पैकेजिंग क्या करती है, सेल्फ लाइफ को बढ़ाने में मदद करती है। पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट लॉसेस और फूड सिक्योरिटी बढ़ाती है। फसल कटाई के बाद जो भी नुकसान है कि कितनी देर तक उसे स्टोर किया जा सकता है, कितने वक्त तक उसे संभाल के रखा जा सकता है इससे पहले उसे मार्केट में सेल किया जा सके, या कितने लंबे वक्त तक उसे इमरजेंसी राशन के लिए स्टोर किया जा सकता है, वो सब इम्प्रूव हो जाता है। देन अब बात करेंगे कि इससे फार्मर्स के क्या फ़ायदे हैं। फार्मर के फ़ायदे ये हैं कि प्रोडक्टिविटी एनहेंस हो गई। प्रोडक्टिविटी एनहेंस होने से इनकम स्टेबल हो जाती है, बेचना आसान है, स्ट्रेस कम हो जाता है। अब क्योंकि आप फर्टिलाइजर ही कम अमाउंट में लग रहे हैं, क्योंकि अब थोड़ा सा फर्टिलाइजर ज़्यादा प्लांट्स तक पहुंच पा रहा है, तो ये कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव है, आपको ज़्यादा खर्च नहीं करना पड़ेगा। अब जब इनपुट ही रिड्यूस हो गया तो इसका मतलब है कि जो फाइनेंशियल बर्डन है फार्मर्स के ऊपर से वो कम हो गया। तो अब छोटे मोटे फार्मर्स या इंटरमीडिएट जितने भी फार्मर हैं वो सब इस बात का फायदा उठा सकते हैं और अपना सोशो इकोनॉमिक स्टेटस रेस कर सकते हैं। फिर अब क्योंकि नैनोटेक एक अपने आप में ही एक नई फील्ड है, इसका मतलब इस काम को करने के लिए नए लोग भी चाहिए होंगे, सिस्टम्स को बनाने में, इम्प्लाई करने में, लोगों को सिखाने के लिए। तो इस सबसे एक फायदा ये है कि इन न्यू एग्रो इंडस्ट्रीज की वजह से हमारे पास क्या है, नई जॉब्स क्रिएट हो जाएंगी रूरल्स के लिए, जो एक और अच्छी बात है कि रोजगार बढ़ेगा। ठीक है। देन हेल्थ और एनवायरनमेंट के बेनिफिट्स, आप एक्सेस यूज ऑफ फर्टिलाइजर इस्तेमाल नहीं कर रहे, आप एक्सेस यूज ऑफ वाटर इस्तेमाल नहीं कर रहे, तो सॉइल के लिए, एनवायरनमेंट के लिए हर तरह से बेनिफिशियल है। फिर एक्सपोर्ट का पोटेंशियल, ठीक है, क्योंकि अब आपने कोई भी ऐसी चीज इस्तेमाल नहीं की जो प्लांट में केमिकल, ठीक है, केमिकल थ्रेशोल्ड बढ़ा रही है, कोई भी बीमारी है, क्रॉप्स खराब नहीं हो रही। तो इस सबसे फायदा ये है कि हम बड़ी आसानी से अच्छी क्रॉप्स को बाहर एक्सपोर्ट कर सकते हैं और जिसकी वजह से फार्मर्स बेटर प्रॉफिट्स अर्न कर सकते हैं। और कंक्लूजन में हमें यही बताना है कि नैनोटेक सारी बातें जो आपने की उसे सिर्फ समराइज करना है कि नैनोटेक एग्रीकल्चर में सिर्फ और सिर्फ इकोलॉजिकल सस्टेनेबिलिटी की बात नहीं करता, वो ऑल्सो सोशल जस्टिस और इकोनॉमिक एम्पावरमेंट की भी बात करता है। कि प्रीवियसली सिर्फ जो बड़े बड़े फार्मर्स हैं वही महंगे महंगे सिस्टम खरीद सकते हैं, बेटर सीड्स खरीद सकते हैं, बेटर इरिगेशन कर सकते हैं, बेटर मशीन्स इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं, बेटर टेक्नोलॉजी यूज कर सकते हैं, वो प्रॉब्लम थी। पर क्योंकि नैनोटेक हर चीज़ को इतना अफोर्डेबल बना रहा है, ईजी बना रहा है, तो अब ये सबके लिए एक सा है। अब ये सबको एक जैसा मौका देता है कि एक छोटा फार्मर भी चाहे तो ज़्यादा अच्छी फार्मिंग कर सकता है जितना ही आपका कोई बड़ा फार्मर करता है। ठीक है। सो इस सब से क्या, ये कैटलिस्ट बनता है जो रूरल इंक्लूसिव रूरल डेवलपमेंट को प्रमोट करता है, जहां पर कोई भी पीछे ना छूटे, इस बात का इंश्योर करता है। ठीक है। ये गवर्नमेंट मिशंस को इंप्रूव करता है, नेशनल मिशंस ऑफ सस्टेनेबिलिटी एग्रीकल्चर और डिजिटल एग्रीकल्चर, इस सब में बहुत हेल्प करता है एक बेटर सोसाइटी को बिल्ड करने में। तो 3 क्वेश्चंस हमने देखे इस सब के रिगार्डिंग, और हमें क्या समझ आया? हमें ये समझ आ गया है कि अब जीएस का पेपर फोकस क्या कर रहा है साइंस एंड टेक में, कि इंडिया किस तरफ बढ़ रहा है। ओवरऑल आप देखें पिछले कुछ सालों से, तो इंडिया जीएस के पेपर में बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर रहा है कि हमेशा हम लोग फोकस कर रहे हैं इंडिया के करंट फ्यूचर गोल्स पर, कि हमारे फ्यूचर गोल्स क्या हैं, हम किन चीज़ों में लैग कर रहे हैं और हम कैसे इम्प्रूव कर रहे हैं, और कैसे सब मिलकर एक बेटर सोसाइटी हो। जैसा चूँकि हमारी जो सोसाइटी, इंडियन सोसाइटी, वो बहुत ही डाइवर्स है, तो हम जितनी भी स्कीम प्रोसीजर है, हम सिर्फ और सिर्फ डेवलपमेंट पे फोकस नहीं कर रहे हैं, हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं कैसे ना कैसे करके हम अपनी सोसाइटी को और ज़्यादा इंक्लूसिव बना सकें, जहाँ हम लोगों के बीच जितना भी आपका इकोनॉमिक डिस्पैरिटीज़ है उन्हें कम कर सकें। ठीक है, सो ये 3 क्वेश्चन हमारे उसी बारे में थे। आई होप इट वुड हेल्प यू, और इससे आपको काफ़ी हेल्प मिलेगी। सो इन केस अगर आपको और कोई डाउट है और कोई चीज़ में आप डिस्कशन चाहते हैं, तो कमेंट सेक्शन ऑब्वियसली हमेशा के लिए आपके लिए ओपन है। आप वहाँ मैसेज कीजिए, कमेंट कीजिए, एंड वी विल गेट बैक टू यू। थैंक यू फॉर ज्वाइनिंग अस।